treatment provision as traditional healers was greater than in men. This is in line with previous study which stated that for women, the healing profession has a positive impact on improving her own status and the status of women in society. The role of women in medicine and healing has been proven throughout history, from the ancient world to the present. The selected traditional healers were dominated by generation with an age range of 40 to 60 years, with the main livelihood as farmers and with low levels of education. In this current study, each plant is equipped with various information including local name, plant family, plant part use, poison dose, disease symptoms, administration route, and toxicity data. The data revealed that as many as 24 species of medicinal plants belonging to 19 plant families have been used by traditional healers to treat physical disorder. The most frequently used species for overcoming physical disorder was lemongrass or Cymbopogon citratus, with the highest use value and use percentage as of 0.21 and 12.12%. Plant species with higher use value indicate that the species is likely to grow in abundance in the area, found mostly by local communities and known to be beneficial to local people for health purposes when compared to other plants with lower UV. Lemongrass has been widely used to treat various health problems. Many previous studies have reported the phytoconstituent and pharmacological activities such as analgesic, diuretic, carminative, antimicrobial, antipyretic, antiseptic, sedative, and tonic. As a tonic and to treat physical disorders, lemongrass works to improve health by improving the work of the respiratory, digestive, nervous, and excretory system and facilitating the absorption of nutrients into the body, thereby providing strength and boosting the immune system. Myrtaceae and Poaceae were recognized as the most utilized plant family by traditional healers, followed by the families of Compositae, Annonaceae, and other families. The Myrtaceae family, which consists of 140 genera and about 3 to 5,000 species, is the most well-known essential oil producing plant in the community and is widely used for medical and commercial purposes. Moreover, about 1,800 plant species belonging to the genus Syzygium in this family have been widely used in traditional medicine systems in Asian countries, including Indonesia. Meanwhile, the Poaceae family, which comprises 119 genera and 1482 species, is also reported to have been used by indigenous people and native communities in Asian countries, specifically to treat certain diseases and ailments. Leaves were indicated to be the most widely harvested and utilized plant parts by traditional healers in Papua and West Papua ethnic groups compared to other parts such as stem, root, fruit, stem bark, and tubers, as shown by plant part value for more than 75%. Leaves are generally available in a greater quantities in a plant, and leaf harvesting is considered safer and does not have a negative impact on plant survival. In addition, the leaves also contain various bioactive components such as flavonoids, alkaloids, phenols, and saponins, which are predicted to be responsible for their pharmacological activities. The study results showed that the concern level of traditional healers for the survival of medicinal plant species was quite high, as indicated by the cultivation efforts that have been carried out by more than 60% healers. Previous study reported whether local knowledge regarding sustainable use and traditional concept of forest resources conservation has been established in Papua, but this traditional wisdom is less exposed in the scientific literature. However, the initiation of cultivation needs to be carried out considering that almost 40% of healers still carry out treatment to their patients using medicinal plants by collecting and harvesting existing plants without cultivation. In conclusion, this study demonstrated that the study area has plenty of medicinal plants to treat ailments specifically for physical disorders. As many as 43 concoction information and 24 plant species distributed in 19 families among 19 healers in 10 ethnic groups in Papua and West Papua were documented. Cymbopogon citratus or lemongrass, leaves, myrtaceae, and poaceae were determined as the most prominent species, plant part use, and plant family. And since less than 40% of traditional heroes has not practiced cultivation, those conservation efforts need to be started immediately to prevent the extinction of this medicinal plant. We would like to thanks to all traditional healers in Papua and West Papua ethnic groups, the Ristoja 2017 team, and Medicinal Plant and Traditional Medicine Research and Development Center for conducting Ristoja. That's all our presentation. Thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The title of our paper is Networking Capabilities of Millennial Farmers in Central Java. The authors are Erlina Widartanti, Muhammad Harisuddin, Kusnandar, Istiqomah, Nuning Setiawati, and Aulia Konita. We are from Department of Agribusiness, Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas 11. Introduction. Agricultural degeneration is one of the crucial problems threatening food security in Indonesia. According to Central Statistics Agency data, the number of farmers in 2018, 2019, and 2020 decreased to approximately 35.7 million, 34.58 million, and 33.4 million. The decrease needs to be addressed immediately through regeneration to avoid a shortage of farmers in the future. Therefore, farmer life and poverty in agriculture is increasingly abandoned by the younger generation. The regeneration of farmers is very important in maintaining the adequacy of the workforce in agriculture, which plays an important role in the stability of food security. An Indonesian Ministry of Agriculture has established policy and programs to facilitate the millennial generation to be interested in working in the agricultural sector. Central Java is one of the provinces with a relatively high contribution from the agricultural sector to the gross regional domestic product. The number of millennial farmers cannot be standardly identified. Their agribusiness behavior is measured through individual subsistence character. Farmers view groups as a vehicle for learning and exchanging information as well as expanding business network. There is a development in the rural creative communities which are a place for farmers to collaborate and coordinate with various related parties. It was discovered that doing business and building network are the prerequisite for millennial farmers to manage their enterprises as a rational action for small-scale farmers to enter the market with collaborative efficiency. The collaboration with other farmers, government, academic, and communities in the non-agricultural work that need to be carried out to support business. The research aims to determine the ability of millennial farmers in Central Java and build a network for the sustainability of agricultural business. Research methods. The research used basic descriptive and analytic methods. The location was selected for specifically a Central Java province. The determination of the location purposefully taken 10 provinces or cities are Tegal, Purbalingga, Wonosobo, Banyumas, Temanggung, Purworejo, Semarang, Magelang, Sukoharjo, and Klaten. A snowball sampling method was used. The number of sampling taken in 120 millennial farmers according to the proportion of their registration of Millennial Farmer Ambassador for Regency. Data analysis was carried out using qualitative and quantitative analysis. Research and discussion. The Ministry of Agriculture targeted to attract 25 million millennials to work in the agricultural sector. Bali Desa Bangun Desa, which is the motto of the former governor of Central Java, Mr. Bibit Waluyo, is suitable to be applied and synergizing the program of the Ministry of Agriculture and growing millennial farmer. The capacity of farmer is very important in the development of human resource and agriculture. One of the human resource strategies that can be applied in the agricultural sector is the development of interactive innovation network and communication access. Networking ability and the capability to build, develop, and maintain relationships with parties to achieve the same goal. The findings of the research on Table 1, Millennial Farmers Network in Central Java, are all respondents in the research have networking relationship with at least two parties, namely the production facilities provider and marketing system. Several millennial farmers networks in Central Java are interwoven on the subsystem of raw material for companies from outside the region as well as farmer groups and joint business groups. The research found that some millennial farmers have appointed professional associations or are affiliated with certain institutes as a forum for business development, including Indonesian Young Entrepreneur Association or HIPMI, Indonesian Council for Small Business, ICSB, and it's all. The marketing subsystem, the most important, is supporting the business. Internet networks are needed by millennial farmers for social media, marketing media, and communication. Internet network also to support network coverage capability of millennial farmers. From Table 2, note the coverage millennial farmer network can reach local, regional, and national scope, while some have penetrated export. Local, regional, and national level cooperation is urgently needed in development of sustainable agricultural business. Millennial farmers who can export are from Magelang Regency wheat and sugar and vegan nectar product and rabbit farming. Temanggung Regency with kopi ornamental fish product. The capital need to build a network which includes trust, honestly, commitment, communication, and production quality. This factor and the key at the tab and that shown the table 3 how the farmer need to build network. The finding of the research is trust is the biggest factor honored by respondents as the main capital and supporting success. The next capital is honesty because the business is affects sustainability. Millennial farmers as agricultural business actors need cooperation with various parties to improve their business sustainability. The Pentahelix collaborates among the government, the private sector, and farmers are very important to support the development and agricultural. Finding from Table 4, almost all millennial farmers have practiced a business-to-business or B2B relationship partner and networking in the system of providing production facilities and marketing subsystem. B2B can be used to minimize failure and business in the marketing field. The networking pattern is also supported by digital technology to increase income. Conclusion. The networking capability of millennial farmers in the Central Java vary. between agribusiness subsystems called main capital and parten. The network with it leads to subsystem and the most of the marketing subsystem with a B2B parten. The pattern can minimize business risk with vast networking coverage capability on the regional scale. The main capital owned by the farmer is trust in the building and business as Swiss sustainability agriculture. Digital technology significantly support the networking of agribusiness subsystem, corporate capabilities, and network partners are that boil. The use of social media minimizes communication costs between related stakeholders. It was also discovered the mentors plays a role in improving the capability of millennial farmers, especially of this management. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dia Subositi. I'm a researcher in Research Center for Pharmaceutical Ingredients and Traditional Medicine, National Research and Innovation Agency, or Pusat Riset Bahan Baku Obat dan Obat Tradisional, BRIN. In this good opportunity, I would like to present our research entitled Genetic Diversity of Cryptophyllum pictum or daun ungu based on intersimple sequence repeat ISSR. Cryptophyllum pictum or daun ungu is a member of the Acanthaceae family and native to Papua New Guinea. Three varieties of Cryptophyllum pictum are found in Java, namely var viride, which has green leaves. Var album is characterized by green leaves with the white or yellowish tint on a midrib, and var lurido sanguinum, which has purple leaf color. A previous study reported that 38 of Cryptophyllum pictum accessions were collected from various islands in Indonesia. Those accessions were grouped based on leaf color. Cryptophyllum pictum is generally used by the community to treat wounds, swelling, abdominal pain, and hemorrhoids. This plant extract contains saponins, flavonoids, steroids, and tannins. Cryptophyllum pictum is one of the medicinal plants used in Jamu Scientific for hemorrhoids and traditional herbal commercial products. Characterization and genetic diversity of medicinal plants are very important and necessary in efforts to conserve and manage genetic resources. Plant diversity is evaluated using various markers such as biochemical, morphological, and molecular markers. Currently, information on the genetic diversity of Cryptophyllum pictum is still limited. Collection and characterization is the initial stage for selecting and standardizing of Cryptophyllum pictum as herbal raw material. ISSR molecular marker is the most useful and effective for plant genetic variation assessment. The objective of this study was to determine the genetic diversity of Cryptophyllum pictum collected from various regions in Indonesia based on the ISSR molecular markers. Collection of Cryptophyllum pictum was carried out in March to August 2016 at several locations in Papua, East Java, Central Java, West Java, and West Sumatra Province, Table 1. Young leaves or shoots were used as a sample material. Pseudoranthemum carutersii was used as an outgroup also for comparison to Cryptophyllum pictum sample in the identification or authentication of daun ungu accession. Figure 1 shows a variation of leaf morphology on daun ungu collection and outgroups. Point A shows a leaf variation in color of daun ungu accessions. P. Daun ungu in confirmation with the code PMUP1, confer Pseudoranthemum, and point C. The outgroups using to accession of Pseudoranthemum carutersii. Extraction of Cryptophyllum total genomic DNA was using DNA kit isolation protocol. DNA quantification was carried out using a spectrophotometer to determine the purity and concentration of DNA. Next, 4 ISSR primers were used for ISSR analysis. The amplification reaction was performed as follows. After that, amplification products were electroprocessed and the agarose gel was visualized and photographed using GelDoc system. Clear and recognizable DNA fragments were denoted as presence or absence of each primer used and in all accessions. Similarity indexes of all accessions were calculated based on dissimilarity. The dendrogram was constructed using unweighted pair group method using arithmetic mean or UPGMA cluster analysis. This data analysis was performed by Entasis software. Table 2 shows the average polymorphism of 45 down-ungu accessions resulting from the amplification using 4 ISSR primers was 76.9%, with a fragment size of 300 to 2,650 base pair. Figure 2 showed DNA fragments of 45 accessions of Cryptophyllum pictum amplified using 4 ISSR primers. Figure 3 showed the dendrogram of 45 Cryptophyllum accessions based on ISSR molecular marker. The dendrogram divided down-ungu accessions into 2 main clusters with similarity of 67.7%. Cluster 1 consists of 44 down-ungu accessions collected from several regions, while Cluster 2 consists of outgroups Pseudoranthemum carutersii accessions and down-ungu accessions collected from Malang with the code PMUP1. ISSR primers detected the genetic diversity of down-ungu obtained from several locations with a similarity index of 83.7 to 100%. Several accessions from different collection locations such as Tawangmangu and Papua accessions had 100% similarity or identical. This is most likely due to the Tawangmangu accessions originating from Papua. The vegetative propagation of down-ungu through stem cuttings is thought to be a factor causing the very low genetic diversity between accessions. Individual plants that are propagated vegetatively have characteristics and genetics that are identical to their parents. The research findings also show that the molecular markers ISSR can be used to authenticate medicinal plants. Down-ungu with the code PMUP1 was found in cluster 2 with the outgroup plants genus Pseudoranthemum. 3 conclusions from the study were ISSR molecular markers were effective tools for assessing genetic diversity of Cryptophyllum accessions. Number 2, the genetic similarity index of Cryptophyllum pictum ranged from 83.7 to 100%, indicating a low level of genetic diversity among accessions. And the last, the low genetic diversity in the studied Cryptophyllum pictum accessions needed more attention for germplasm management. These are the references for the research. Thank you for your attention and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very nice. Now we have come to the QA sessions. We have very limited time. So do we have a question from the floor? Please just turn on the microphone. No question? Well, okay, I have a question for Ibu Nuning Rahmawati. So, Bu Nuning, in your presentation, you, in one of the slides, I saw there is a demographical information about the participant of the questionnaire, right? And then it says that those participating are like 60% having low level of education. Could you elaborate about that low level of education?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Elisa, for the question. Yes, in our previous presentation, we show the result about the education level of the traditional heroes selected in this study, and I told that there are more than more than 50%, right? More than 50% traditional healer who has a low level of education. Okay, this is the summary of the education. In this study, we are divided education level to no education level or an education, and then kindergarten level, elementary school, junior high school, senior high school, and the university. And for an education or no formal education, we have around 26%, and traditional healers who have education level for kindergarten as of 15%, and for elementary school 21%. So I summarize from 3 categories into low level of education, because junior high school, senior high school, and university, we are categorize it as a better or good education level.
So the low education level is placed among those who earn until elementary?
Yes, right.
Oh, okay, okay, just to confirm that. So despite their low education, they can harness the medicinal plants based on local knowledge.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We still have time. Is there any question from others? So I'm afraid that I'm again that will raise a question to Ibu Dia Subositi about the genetic diversity. Yeah, Bu Dia, you mentioned that during the sampling, you were using the young shoot, the young leaf or the shoot parts, right? Would it be matter like if we use the old leaves or something, will it interfere with the result? I'm just curious about that.
Okay, thank you for the question, moderator. We can use the old sample or old leaves as a sample, but we prefer to use shoot or young leaves as a sample because it's easier to extracting the genomic DNA. Yeah, if we use an old sample, is more difficult. Yeah, to
harder
extracting. Yeah, harder to extracting the genomic DNA.
Okay, thank you very much, because I'm not familiar with this.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, because our time is up, so let's move to the next presentation. I will call again Ms. Rikania Reninta. She's here now, so we will start with the presentation IT number 76. And then next, how about, I'm sorry, Fegi. Mr. or Mrs. I'm sorry. ID number 83. Are you ready? I'm afraid not. There's no response. Ibu Norwitri Utami. Okay, we have to skip that too. Mr. Bambang Pujiasmanto.
Yes, it's me.
Can you introduce yourself? So Mr. Bambang Pujiasmanto is what? You are the representative? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Ibu Desi, okay. And one more presentation, Welserin Bishop. Mr. Welserin Bishop.
Hello, yeah, it's me.
Oh, I'm sorry. How can I call you?
Just call me Well.
Oh, Well, okay, Miss Well. Okay, you ready, okay?
Yeah.
You'll be like presenting earlier. Okay, so to the operator, I'll repeat again. We will have the presentation from ID number 76, ID 132, and ID 148. Okay, could you please begin? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rika Nereninta, and I would like to introduce our research called Effect of Extraction Method on the Flavonoid Contents of Potential Medicinal Plants Phyllanthus niruri. Phyllanthus niruri or meniran is part of the Euphorbiaceae family, a plant with various ingredients that are beneficial to health. Meniran contains various kinds of chemical compounds and widely used in the form of extracts to get its health benefit. Regarding of that, the drying process is important part in meniran to maintain the quality of plant extracts by reducing the water content to prevent the growth of microorganisms and minimize the alteration of active ingredients in plants. So, in this study, we want to investigate the effect of drying methods and incubation temperature on the flavonoid content of Phyllanthus niruri. For sample preparation, we're using 3 different drying methods, which are fresh-dried, oven-dried, and air-dried. After that, we extract the sample using pure methanol, and we're using 2 different incubation times, which are 24 hours in -4 degrees Celsius and 1 hour in room temperature. For flavonoid analysis, we're using spectrophotometer at wavelength range between 400 to 800 nanometers, and we're using quercetin as standard. To detect flavonoids, we're using aluminum chloride colorimetric assay, and to calculate the flavonoid, we're using total flavonoid content formula, and to analyze the data, we're using RStudio application. For sample condition, before extraction, we can see a slightly different color between oven-dried samples and air-dried samples. And after extractions, we can see the air-dried samples and oven-dried samples having a slightly darker color than fresh-dried samples. For detection the quercetin, we're using 80 ppm of quercetin standard to detect at the spectrophotometer, and we're able to detect the quercetin at wavelength at 432 nanometers. After that, we're making the calibration curve, and we're able to having result the correlation of coefficient at 0.98, which is more than 95%. So based on this calibration equation, we're able using this method to calculate the quercetin concentration of this sample. For flavonoid test results, air-dried method have the highest concentration of flavonoid in both incubation conditions. As we can see, the air drying method having the highest flavonoid content, while in yield, the fresh drying having the highest yield among the other drying methods. Fresh-dried method having significantly different compared to air-dried and oven-dried method on the total flavonoid content versus drying method for room temperature incubation. As we can see, the fresh drying method having the lowest flavonoid content, while the air-dried method having the highest flavonoid content. Fresh-dried method having significantly different compared to oven-dried method. We can see the oven drying method having the lowest yield compared to other drying methods. And we can see the fresh drying method having the highest yield compared to other drying methods. In total flavonoid content versus drying method for cold incubation, we can see there are no significantly different between all drying methods, despite the fresh drying method having the lowest total flavonoid contents compared to other drying methods. Also, there are no significantly different within all drying methods on yield versus drying method for cold incubation. Incubation temperature is not significantly different from yield at yield on various incubation methods, despite the room temperature incubation having slightly lower on yield compared to cold incubation method. The incubation temperature was not significantly different from the total flavonoid contents on various incubation methods. Drying method differs significantly different on yield. As we can see, the fresh drying method having the highest yield, while the oven drying method have the lowest yield. Drying methods differ significantly different on flavonoid contents. And as we can see, the fresh drying method having the lowest flavonoid content. Incubation temperatures have no significant difference in yield and flavonoid contents, but the drying methods show otherwise. There is no interaction between the drying method and incubation temperature. Dried and oven-dried samples incubated at room temperature produce higher yield and flavonoid content than those incubated at -4 degrees Celsius, having a similar pattern. To conclude, we recommend using a dried method with incubation on room temperature for producing highest flavonoid content based on this research. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My research, the title Morphological Identification of Cipruan, Pisalis angulata L, at several height for domestication. My team, I am Bambang Pujiasmanto with Supriyono, Sri Budiastuti, Desi Stianingrum, Dava Akbar, and Ida Rumania Manurung from Department of Agroteknology, Faculty of Agriculture, Universitas 11 Maret, Surakarta, Indonesia. Introduction. Cipruan Pisalis angulata L. The content of cipruan include physaline, physaline D, physaline F, physaline B, with angulatin which contain help develop until 25% protein, 14.4% oil, fat with the main component palmitic acid and stearic acid found in seed. Cipruan is readily cultivated because it is considered a wheat, an essential to cultivated plant. This plant grew in forest in rice field. This plant has the opportunity to be cultivated because it has many benefits, especially in the health sector. Morphological identification of cipruan is carried out so that people are more familiar with the characteristics of this plant so that it can be used properly. This research aims to know the difference of morphology, ecology of cipruan at several altitudes. Material and method. The research was carried out in Sukoharjo and Karanganyar areas for morphological identification from April to May 2021. Two locations were taken for low, medium, and high plant. Low plant habitat were taken in an altitude of 0 until 400 meter after sea level, moderate at 401 until 800 meter after sea level, and height of more 800 meter after sea level. The location is Jatimalang Village, Bandung, Ngok-Lebak, and Matise, and others. This study used a survey method. The survey location was selected using the proposed random sampling method, and the land survey aimed to determine a certain location for research. result and discussion, Cipruan agroecological condition and their natural habitat. The observed agroecological condition included altitude coordinate and light intensity. Result the agroecological condition of Cipruan in their natural habitat can be seen in Table 1. Table 2, soil analysis in Cipruan natural habitat. Soil condition affect the level of soil fertility, which will have an impact on plant growth. The observed variable included pH, moisture content, sea organic and organic matter, and soil analysis at the SIG research site can be seen in Table 2. And different in Cipruan morphological between altitude, and the Table 3 different on morphological of Cipruan between altitude and the length of leaf, stem, and flower. Morphological variation will occur when environmental influence are more dominant than genetic influence. For example, plants that come from the same ovule are placed in different environmental conditions. Different will arise between them, and different the morphological of leaf, stem, and flowers of Cipruan can be seen in Figure 1, 2, and 3. Conclusion. The Cipruan morphological difference between height located in the leaves, stem, and flowers. The size of Cipruan leaves in the lowland are larger than in other plant. The size of the Cipruan plant in the highland is smaller status than other plant. Cipruan found in the lowland have dark green flower petal, in contrast to the Cipruan in the middle and highland with bright green. Agroecological factors that play a role in the cultivation of Cipruan is light intensity. Thank you so much for your attention.
Good morning and salam sejahtera. I'm Welzelin Anak Bisop from University Teknologi Mara, Malaysia. And today I would like to present my research on the growth response and nutritional status of eggplant, Solanum melongena L, planted in soil incorporated with oyster mushroom waste. First of all, is a brief introduction of my research. According to Amin MZ 2014, the current mushroom production is about 24 tons, while the demand for mushroom is twice the production, which is about 50 tons. And the increasing mushroom production will lead to the abundant waste in the field, while recycling it requires a high cost. However, leaving it abundantly in the field will cause pollution. This study highlights the reutilizations of waste after the mushroom harvest in an effective ways as a soil amendment. Mushroom waste consists of non-toxic material and nutrient which can be used as soil amendment and add fertilizer to the plant. Reutilizing mushroom waste is one of the cost-effective approach in waste management towards a zero waste industry. The objective of my research is to evaluate the growth and yield response of eggplant in a different ratios of oyster mushroom waste and to assess the nutritional status of soil and eggplant after the incorporations of oyster mushroom waste. Next, moving to the research methodology. Experiment was conducted at established field plot at UiTM Sarawak for about 4 to 8 months, and the material involved are eggplant variety ARBC BJ105, and the experiment was conducted by using randomized complete block design with 4 treatments and replicated 4 times. The experiment consists of 4 treatments, which is T1 100% topsoil control, T2 90% topsoil and 10% oyster waste, T3 70% topsoil and 30% oyster waste, and lastly T4 50% of topsoil and 50% of oyster waste. As you can see, the figure on your right side is the treatment arrangement. Next, the oyster mushroom waste preparation. The mushroom variety used is Pleurotus pulmonaris. 200 grams of dolomite were added in 200 kilograms of oyster mushroom waste. The purpose of adding dolomite is to improve the pH. Then, it will be composed in a gunny sack for about 2 months. As for the soil moisture content, it was conducted by using gravimetric method by oven-dried basis, while a soil-water ratio method was used for soil pH determination. Next, in this slide shows the method and procedure used to determine the NPK in soil and NPK, Ca, and Mg in plant. As for the growth parameter, the development performance observed were plant height, number of leaf, leaf greenness, and dry biomass accumulation. The yield parameter involved in this study are the fresh fruit yield weight and the fresh fruit length. Moving to the next part, results and discussion. In response with the first objective of my research, which is to evaluate the growth and yield response of eggplant in different ratios of oyster waste mushroom, in my study, T4 with 50% of topsoil and 50% of oyster waste mushroom has recorded to have the highest mean soil moisture, followed by T3, T2, and T1. And with this, I believe that it has to do with the soil aggregation, which it increased the soil porosity so that the root of the plant can penetrate well as it helps in water absorption, air movement, and water infiltration, which will result in high soil moisture content. Past study by ICNUR and Chifdat 2016 reported that the one with oyster waste mushroom application will result in a better soil amelioration, which improves the soil structure. And I do believe with this statement, as in my study, the one with high oyster waste mushroom, which is in T4 and T3, has better soil pH. And I do believe it has influenced the soil structure as it contains more organic matter and eventually will increase the soil pH. Next is the results on the growth parameter, which is the plant height. Based on the graph in figure 4.3, T3 recorded to have the highest mean plant height with 69.52 cm, followed by T4, T2, and T1. The oyster waste mushroom contain organic matter which can directly provide nutrient required by the eggplant. Next, the number of leaf. Based on the graph, T3 showed to have more number of leaf, followed by T4, T2, and T1. The utilizations of oyster waste mushroom incorporated in soil has greatly influenced the growth response of the eggplant. Next, moving to the leaf greenness. The SPAT value in T4 showed to have the highest reading, followed by T3, T2, and T1. As stated by Flores et al. 2015, stated that the SPAT value in leaf are related to the nutrient availability, and I do strongly agree with this statement, where in my study, all eggplant that are planted in oyster waste mushroom application shows to have the higher reading of SPAT value. Next, the dry biomass accumulation. Based on the graph, T4 showed to have the higher dry biomass accumulation, followed by T3, T2, and T1. In this study showed that the plant that are grown in soil incorporated with mushroom waste proved to have the higher dry biomass accumulation as compared to the one grown in the soil alone. This is due to the higher nutrient uptake, which helps plant to grow better, bigger, and accumulate higher biomass. Overall, T3 shows to have the highest fresh fruit weight, with a total yield of harvested eggplant of 6 kilograms. Overall, T3 had the better yield characteristic as the measurement of all harvested fruit were longer than T2, T4, and T1. In response with my second objective, which related to the nutritional status of soil and eggplant after incorporations of oyster mushroom waste, here are the results of my soil nutritional status. As you can see in table 4.3, clearly stated that The nutrient availability in soil incorporated with oyster mushroom waste has higher NPK content, especially in T3 and T4, even after the plant absorption. Lastly, on the plant nutritional status. Since soil incorporated with oyster mushroom waste has high soil physical properties value as mentioned in the previous slide, this condition allows the plant to absorb more nutrient, thus having more nutrient availability as compared to the plant that are planted in the soil alone. Alright, next, as you can see from the figure, the difference of fruit characteristic between treatments. Okay, so T3 has better quality of fruits with good fruit characteristic where the fruit is larger, longer, and the color are darker, as well as the size are bigger as compared to the other treatment. While T1, the color is a little pale purple, shorter, and the size are smaller. And the picture on the right side shows the defect fruit. From the figure, there are many defect fruit in T1, where most of the fruit has color with white stripe purple, and the fruit tend to defect at very early age. Now, we have come into a conclusion. As a conclusion, it is clearly shown that overall in T3 and T4 are significantly higher than T2 and T1 in all the parameters observed. That is all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all the presentation. We already have a question here, so I would like to just read it directly. This is a question to Ibu Rikania. Ibu Rikania, are you ready? So please explain more about fresh and air drying methods. And the second, the highest yield resulted from fresh drying method, but the highest flavonoid is the lowest. Could you explain why?
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear my voice? Sorry.
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can hear your voice clearly.
Okay. Thank you for the questions. For the questions number one, about the fresh and air drying method. For fresh samples, we use after the sample harvest, we only clean with running water, and then we put the sample to the freezer at the -80 degrees Celsius, and after that we use the sample for the analysis. And for the air dry samples, after we clean the samples, we put the samples at the room temperature, about 21 degrees Celsius, and we allow the samples to drying naturally for about 7 days. And for the question number two, why the highest yield resulted from first drying method, but highest flavonoid is lowest? For these samples, for the several literature that I read, the several plants having produce higher flavonoid when it dries than fresh. So in Maneran, our hypothesis, this plant produce effectively flavonoid when the plant is drying than fresh. Is it answered the questions?
Okay, how about Bu Winarti?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Sorry, but I'm a bit afraid that maybe the active component in the Maneran maybe other than flavonoid. Is it possible?
I'm sorry, I cannot hear your voice clearly.
Because the flavonoid is the lowest, although the yield is highest. So it is mean that maybe other active ingredients extracted from the meniran using the fresh drying method?
For the result of the yield, we calculated from the weight of the samples. So when the samples is fresh, the sample contain more water than drying sample. So that's why the yield is higher. But in the flavonoid, we calculated from the spectrophotometer analysis. I agree with you. So maybe in the future we can conduct more experiment regarding of that. But from this experiment, in meniran, the flavonoid content from the drying samples is higher because maybe the water content lower than the fresh drying, and also maybe the microorganisms in the sample already reduced by the drying method compared to the fresh dry sample.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Burikania. And we also have one question that is very similar. So I think this also, just now your answer will be also addressing the question from Ibu Burikania, because she's asking why dry and wet method affect the yield of flavonoids. So I think, yeah, it's just basically the similar question, right? It's diluted by perhaps the more water content in the fresh, which after that followed by the freezing. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, I hope for Ibu Desi, this will answer your question. And is it? Do you still have a feedback?
Yes. But please ulang pertanyaan. Please repeat the question.
No. I mean, do you still have the feedback to Ibu Rikania?
Enough.
No?
Yeah.
That's enough? Okay.
Sorry, I'm
yeah. Thank you. Okay, thank you. There is one more question. This is given to Miss Well. Why do you use RCBD in your research methodology? Okay, please, Miss Well, if you're ready.
All right. Hello. So can you hear me?
Yes,
I'm sorry
yes.
for the low volume in previous slide. So why do I use RCBD in my experiment research? It is because it is a standard design used in most agricultural experiments, as it provides more accurate results due to the grouping, and it allows a better calculations of unbiased error for specific treatment. And in terms of analyzing the statistical analysis, it can be easily conducted even with the missing data. So am I answering your question, Miss Cornelia?
Yes, Miss Rosaline.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're okay with this feedback from Ms. Well. And there is still one remaining question. I think there's still confusion about the, sorry, I'm back to Ms. Rikania. There's still a confusion about the methods, because Mr. Sigit would like to clarify whether you were using the fresh drying or freeze drying. Could you explain?
For the drying method, I use fresh drying. Fresh drying that I use is the sample were fresh, but we put the sample on the freezer with the temperature of -80 degrees Celsius. After that, we conduct experiment with that samples.
Okay, so this is not a freeze drying.
Yes,
freeze
yes,
drying is
that's
performed
not
using
freeze
the freeze
drying.
drying.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
yes,
completely different.
yes.
And then
and
he also asked the temperature used for oven drying.
The temperature I use is 48 degrees Celsius for about I'm sorry, for about 3 or 4 days. But I think if we want to conduct the experiment, we also have to look the oven feature first, so we can maybe we can use different temperature based on the oven.
So like optimize first.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who raised the question as well. We have a very nice discussion here, but I'm afraid that we're a bit late entering the next term of presentation. I would like to invite Miss or Mr. Fegi, ID number 83. Are you here? No? Okay, how about Miss Nurwitri Utami?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. ID number 149, Miss Konela Kiotanga. Oh, yeah, I think just
hello.
now because
Hello.
yeah. Oh, Miss Nurwitri, you're here, okay? Miss Nurwitri.
I'm Miss Cornelia.
Okay, Miss Cornelia and Miss Nurwitri, ready? And one more, I would like to invite ID 162, Miss Christina Winarti.
Yes, present.
Present, okay. Thank you very much. To the operator, we will begin the third term with ID number 125. And then ID 149 and ID 162. Could you please begin? Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to say thank you for coming to my presentations. It's great to see you all here. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Nurwitri Utami. My institution is National Research and Innovation Agency. In this presentation, we will discuss about increasing secondary metabolites production of Phyllanthus sp to support development of herbal medicine industry. Phyllanthus sp, especially from Niroris species, or we usually call it Meniran in Indonesia, contains bioactive compounds of secondary metabolites, especially flavonoids. As we know, secondary metabolites have bioactivity abilities to treat several diseases, but the problems, cultivation of Phyllanthus sp is still not well developed. Farmers cultivate Phyllanthus sp traditionally so that the average quality are relatively low. Global consumption of medicinal plant products tend to increase. From those, effort to improve the quality of Phyllanthus sp is very important to support the development of the herbal medicine industry. The objective of the assessment is to increase the quality of Phyllanthus sp production, high production of secondary metabolite, where it is very important to support the development of herbal medicine industry. This assessment is a descriptive analytic study using secondary data collected through tracing various scientific publications. To meet the data and information, there were discussions in Agricultural Scientific Meeting Forum. This assessment is the beginning step of the research concerning with the efforts to improve the quality of Phyllanthus sp in 2022. To increase the competitiveness of modern herb medicine or phytopharmaca, there are several basics that must be met, especially the quality of the raw materials. This quality demand is a requirement from the Agency for Food and Drug Supervisory number 32 2019 concerning the safety and quality requirement of herb medicine. In Article 3 stated that herb medicine industry must fulfill the requirement of quality in order to meet the safety and efficacious requirement of traditional drugs, and of course zero risk to human health. Effort to increase quality of Phyllanthus sp production can be done through plant breeding mutation. As we know, irradiation from gamma rays have been widely used in the assembly of high-yielding variety of plants, including Phyllanthus, to get specific desired properties. Induction of mutation in Phyllanthus sp can be done by using reproductive organ, that is the seeds. The expected mutation to be selected which have better characters, in this case is high production of secondary metabolites, while original good characters in Phyllanthus sp can be maintained. Second effort is manipulation of plants' environmental conditions that can affect the production of secondary metabolites. By manipulating environmental conditions such as drought stress and solar radiation intensity, it can be used to obtain certain goals to increase secondary metabolite production of Phyllanthus sp. Purwati research showed that drought stress in cultivation of Phyllanthus sp will increase flavonoid content with 30 days of drought stress, with soil water content 60% of field capacity. Octavidiati's research showed that shading treatment in cultivation of Phyllanthus sp will increase hypophyllantine content, with shading 50% of solar radiation intensity. According to Agency for Food and Drug Supervisory in 2020, there are only 24 phytopharmaca products and 71 standardized herbal products and more than 11,000 herbal products in Indonesia. As we know, phytopharmaca is a herb medicine that is has gone through clinical trials on humans related to efficacy, safety, and health risk to humans. Many of herbal medicinal industries are unable to produce phytopharmaca because it is constrained by the supply of high quality of raw materials, including this Phyllanthus sp. The value of the herbal medicinal trade in 2022 will reach around 943 million and relatively stable growth of 9.8% per year. Conclusion: Phyllanthus sp is considered as an ordinary wheat plant, so that until now there are no superior varieties and appropriate cultivation technique, especially to improve the production quality. Efforts to increase production quality of Phyllanthus is very important in line with the increasing demand for the herbal medicinal industry, which require high quality of raw material. The efforts to increase quality of herbal medicine raw materials is very important to support the development of herbal medicinal industry. Thank you.
Hi, a very good day everyone. Before I'm going to start with my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Cornelia Kyotangga from University Teknologi Mara, Malaysia. Would like to present you about my research study with title of the effect of anti-fruit branch EFB compost and trichoderma biofertilizer on growth and yield performance of chili, Capsicum annum verticilli. It is a great honor and pleasure to have this opportunity to present my paper. First, I would like to talk about introduction of this research. Chili kulai is my indicator plant whereby it is very important high-value cash crop. Statistics show that there is increasing amount of demand for chili production in Malaysia. However, Malaysia generates millions of tons of oil palm waste annually. In this research, Trichoderma is my chosen commercial organic fertilizer as it is microbe that derive from crop residue, livestock waste, and any other natural material. Trichoderma is formulated in a commercial production for protection and growth enhancement for chili production. Now we proceed with research objective. The first objective is to determine physiochemical properties of soil and to evaluate NPK content of chili plant tissue. Second is to evaluate the effect of EFB compost and Trichoderma biofertilizer on the growth and yield performance of chili production. Let's now move on to material and method in this research. This research was located at Farm Management Unit in University Teknologi Mara, Malaysia in Oven Field. The duration of this research is about 8 months. The planting material were used in this research was chili kulai, which was purchased online. My experimental design consists of randomized completely block design, RCBD, which is 4 treatments were replicated 4 times and each treatment have 4 plants, which get the total of 64 experimental units. The 4 treatments were used in this study. Treatment 1 is control, treatment 2 is 100% of EFB compost, treatment 3 is 100% of Trichoderma biofertilizer, and treatment 4 is 50% of EFB compost and 50% Trichoderma biofertilizer. In this part of my presentation, I like to talk about the flowchart of my research study. Figure 3 and Figure 4 show the treatment preparation of the EFB compost and Trichoderma biofertilizer. The experimental layout were arranged according to the RCBD as shown in Figure 5. For data collection, several growth parameters were measured during the growing period, which is plant height and number of leaves per plant, were recorded at every biweekly interval beginning 2 weeks after treatment to over a period of 114 days. Growth parameters on plant biomass were measured at the end of this research. At harvested, yield parameter consists of fruit weight, fruit length, and number of fruit per plant were measured. Soil properties and plant nutritional analysis were analyzed at the end of this research. The data of parameter was statistically analyzed using SPSS and SAS 9.3. Now we continue with result in discussion for objective 1. For soil moisture, ANOVA indicates that no significant difference between the treatment. Based on the data obtained, treatment 4, the soil with application of EFB compost enriched with Trichoderma biofertilizer show the best response of mean soil moisture with 31.45% as compared to control. For soil pH analysis, ANOVA indicates a significant difference between the treatment. It shows that EFB compost has great potential as an organic compost since it has the ability soil structure and provide appropriate growth nutrients. Next, we proceed with soil chemical properties that were used in this research. Soil planting medium used indicate that adequate for chili plant growth. After 60 days of composting, EFB compost recorded the total N 2.7%, total P 0.94%, and total K recorded 1.64%. Nutrient content was detected. Trichoderma biofertilizer recorded the total N 2.2%, total P 2.14%, and total K was 3.64%. Next is the nutrient content of the soil characteristic before and after treatment. Before treatment, nutrient status was lower, and when repeated application of treatment biweekly during the experiment was giving the highest value of NPK. Now we continue with the plant nutrition status of chili. the plant that fertilized with Trichoderma biofertilizer, which is treatment 3 and 4, giving the highest value of N, P, and K. Trichoderma biofertilizer is one of the microorganisms that play a role in the process of nutrient absorption. Now, we proceed with the finding for growth parameter on plant height. The table shows the plant height slightly increased throughout the period of study. ANOVA shows a significant difference of overall mean plant height. For the number of leaves per plant, show an increasing every week after treatment, with T4 giving the highest value of mean number of leaves per plant as compared to control. ANOVA shows significant difference in the mean number of leaves per plant between all the treatment. In addition to this, I like to say that Trichoderma has the ability to improve several aspects of rice development, including plant height and leaf number. Next, we proceed with on dry biomass accumulation. ANOVA shows a significant difference in the mean of dry plant biomass. This study showed that treatment 4 giving the highest value of dry biomass content as the combination of organic compost and Trichoderma strain is more effective approach in increasing plant biomass as compared to additional of organic fertilizer or Trichoderma alone. So we proceed with result in discussion on fruit weight. According to the finding, ANOVA stated there was significant difference between the treatment. In my study, treatment 4 showed a slightly higher overall mean plant height as compared to control. And this part, we will discuss about fruit length. ANOVA showed a significant difference in the mean fruit length between the all treatment. Organic fertilizer can regulate the development of chili plant and increase the fruit length as well as can improve the chili crop yield. This part will discuss about a number of fruit per plant. As the result obtained, ANOVA showed a significant difference among the treatment. Treatment 4 showed the highest number of fruit per plant. EAB compost is abundant in nutritional component which lead to the subject of using compost as a fertilizer to improve soil fertility and also improve fruit production. In conclusion, it can be concluded that the combination of EAB compost with organic fertilizer, which is Trichoderma biofertilizer, can be used as an alternative to reduce the single application of chemical fertilizer as well as potentially being used as planting media for chili cultivation. And as for the recommendation of my research study, based on the finding, the combination of EAB compost and Trichoderma biofertilizer need to be observed more than one cycle to study the effect of this combination. EAB compost can be done by mix the composting with organic matter to increase the microbial activity in EAB compost. And that's all from me. Thank you for attention.
Hi everyone, I'm very pleased to be here to present our paper entitled Functional Food Traits in Flavonoids to Prevent Coronavirus, Opportunities and Challenges. I wrote this paper with my colleague Ibu Istinta Suirman, and we are from Research Center for Agroindustry BRIN. The background of our paper is that the threat of a new type of coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2 caused COVID-19 has not yet shown an end, although it's already started since December 2019, started in Wuhan, China. Data show that in April 2022, more than 494 million people from 215 countries have been infected with SARS-CoV-2 and more than 6.2 million of them died. Although the cases have decreased and almost all countries are already open to the public with the adaptation of new habits and vaccination have been massively carried out, Both the cases of COVID-19 have again increased in some countries, and now we enter in fifth wave outbreaks. Many actions have been done, like massive vaccination, and also to increase the immune system by consuming supplement or balanced nutritious diet containing vitamin B, C, or D, and mineral, which are found in colored fruit and vegetables. Indonesia rich in herb and medicinal plants have active ingredient to boost body's immune system. This active component from natural ingredient can be developed for COVID treatment. For example, the traditional Chinese medicine is beneficial for treating COVID-19, especially in mild to moderate cases, and will reduce the progress to severe COVID-19, according to WHO. The methods that the review paper was performed using the Google search engine to find relevant references. The search term encompass flavonoid, COVID-19, herbs, antiviral, immunomodulator. The period time for searching the reference from this review is July 2020 to March 2021. The opportunities for developing flavonoid-based functional food. Now the trend of back to nature is increasing, and also the changes in consumer lifestyle and increasing demand for health and beauty supplements. Moreover, Indonesia also the second largest mega biodiversity that has many or abundantly plants that have active ingredient to prevent or action as antiviral and immunomodulators. Many research have been carried out to prove potential medicinal brand to combat SARS-CoV-2, ranging from docking methods until preclinical to clinical studies. This is a long steps of research to find a drug or vaccine to overcome the virus. Over the past 2 decades, bioactive compounds derived from plants have been reported as novel health-giving agents for the prevention and or mitigation of several diseases, including cancer, inflammation, cardiovascular, and neurodegenerative diseases. The active ingredient of medicinal plant may play a role in protecting against cytokine storm during severe influenza, stated by Liu, 2016. Flavonoids show promising results with better binding affinities than existing synthetic antiviral drugs. This is stated by Jesse et al. 2021. The most massive studies in traditional medicinal plant conducted in China, the traditional Chinese medicine or TCM, such as conducted by Lang et al. 2020, screened 83 compounds found in TCM against SARS-CoV-2 virus. And then Zhang et al. 2020 reported that of the 125 herbs tested, show that more than 13 potential help against SARS-CoV-2. Other researcher, L. Kamar, 2020 mentioned the top 9 components of traditional Chinese medicine potentials against SARS-CoV-2. Table 1 shows several medicinal plants, flavonoid compound, and the interfered target of SARS-CoV-2. The plant source range from turmeric, Enolote or Camellia sinensis, green tea, galangal, sapanwoods, nutmeg, and also this is only some of the medicinal process potential or have been researched its activity to interfere against SARS-CoV-2, mostly using docking research, and the target is angiostensin converting enzyme 2. The table 2 show the horticultural plant source of flavonoid and interferes target of SARS-CoV-2. The horticultural product like mandarin citrus, citrus pomelo, soybean, shallot, mangosteen, grape, and Anacardium occidentale, also Moringa olivera have potential or have flavonoid compound that is already researched by researchers and have potential as to prevent SARS-CoV-2. And the challenge of the developing active ingredient from flavonoids, that's the WHO stated that a possibility that the coronavirus will become endemic and remain stay away. That the natural medicinal ingredient that contain a variety of active components that work synergistically will make it difficult to obtain standardized active ingredients so that the activity and effectiveness are measured. The docking research tests single compounds. Although the effectiveness of the docking test is known, to produce further phytochemical drugs, further in vitro and in vivo analyses are needed to convert this potential inhibitor into clinical drugs. This requires stages and a long time to obtain drugs that are ready for distribution. Other challenge is creating the latest technology that produces extract quickly and efficiently. Scaling up process also another challenge, and the side effects also have to measure that although flavonoid produced mostly safe according FDA, some researchers reported that excessive intake of flavonoid may have side effects. Flavonoid also potential as mutagen, pro-oxidant, and generate free radicals. The conclusion that although the potential of native Indonesian plant is good to overcome COVID-19, but the development of plant material into phytopharmaceutical products, further research is needed. Collaboration with the pharmaceutical industry, research institute, university, and Indonesian government is imperative. And many flavonoid compounds contained in various plants have been widely studied as antiviral and immunomodulator. However, there are still many challenges that must be overcome to be able to convert this potential into safe and effective medicinal ingredient that can compete with synthetic drugs.
Okay, thank you very much. So those are the three presentations just now. Now we have the question and answer session. Sorry. I see here that Ms. Winarti is raising hand. Ms. Winarti, do you have any question?
Thank you, moderator. My question goes to the first presenter, Ibu, about you mentioned that the progress of herbal medicine, and from the about 11,000 herbs medicine product, only 22 is a phytopharmaca product. And you mentioned that one of the concern is because of the supply of raw material. Could you explain more? I think the concern is not only the supply of material, but maybe other problem like the research budget on herbs, or maybe the government regulation. Because if we learn from China, traditional Chinese medicine is very massive and very popular and very developed. Could you explain maybe the constraint of the less developed herbs product in Indonesia? Thank you. Is it clear? Hello?
Very clear. Maybe your question will be answered with my friend, Mr. Daru Mulyono. Please, Mr. Daru Mulyono.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to help my friend to answer the question. My name is, I introduce my name, Daru Mulyono, is the member of the author. Especially the constraint of the herb medicinal industry is the quality of the production of Phyllanthus. The quality. In this case, because the quality is regarding with the safety and the efficacy of the product. So the production of phytopharmaca in Indonesia until now is still few because they are concerned of the quality of the production of the herb medicinal. So in here also because of the from the Food and Drug Supervisory number 32/2019 concerning the safety. So the herb medicinal industry must fulfill the requirement of high quality in order to meet the safety and efficacy. This is the more important because so the Agency for Food and Drug also reported that there are zero result from the production of herb production. So zero risk into human health, I mean here. Yeah. So that's why the quality is very, very important here. So, and now the Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional or Research Innovation in BRIN in Jakarta, in Indonesia, in Tangerang Selatan, now is doing research concerning with how to increase the quality of Phyllanthus by using gamma irradiation to find the variety of the Phyllanthus that's contain a high content of flavonoid. Is it clear? My answer?
Yes,
I hope
thank
it's
you.
clear.
Okay, thank you, Pak Daru.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daru.
Yeah.
One more question, from Ms. Well. This is a question to Ms. Cornelia. What is the most important parameter indicating the effect of your treatment? Ms. Cornelia, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Rosalind, for the question. Here is my answer for your question. All the parameters are important, but the NPK content in soil is the most important parameter. So that from there, I can access how much will the trichoderma biofertilizer and EFB compost will contribute to the nutritional content in soil that give the highest nutrient content. Am I answering your question, Ms. Rosalind?
Yeah, that's clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Since we're that we have a time constraint. Okay, we have an announcement here. Please fill in the attendance form below. You can see from the chat box. And then we will move to the last term before we have recess. But firstly, I would like to inform to you that because we have the time limitation and we have to maintain the time schedule very strict, And also according to the presentation guideline that we have informed you that video recording must not exceed 7 minutes. So I'm sorry if later on during the video playing, and if we found that the video is exceeding 7 minutes, so we might have to cut by the minute 7. So I hope you all understand this because we have to keep this time schedule. Okay, so for the next presentation, I would like to invite ID number 168, Ms. Sri Rahmawati, and then ID 173, Mr. Joseph
I'm here.
Gary. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, I saw that both presenters are here. And then the third presentation will be from ID 13. Mr. Rahmatullah Rizik, are you ready? Mr. Rahmatullah Rizik? No? How about ID number 33? Mr. Suwarto.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
I'm
Oh
ready.
yeah, you're here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for the last presentation before the recess, to the operator, please play video recording from ID 168, 173, and then ID 13. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rijuli Rahmawati. I'm from 11 Maret University, Surakarta, Indonesia. Today, I would like to present my research entitled Growth and Content of NPK Iron in Rice Plant with Liquid Organic Fertilizer Application of Moringa Leaf. Okay, I would like to share my PPT. Rice is a food crop in the form of clump grass that produce rice as the main food source in most Indonesian people. The growth of rice plant is strongly influenced by the availability of macronutrient and micronutrient, whereas the availability of nutrient in the soil is not optimal. Then fertilization is necessary. Excessive use of chemical fertilizer can result in decreased crop productivity. So effort to reduce the use of chemical fertilizer can be done by giving organic fertilizer, then can be processed from organic waste materials in the environment, such as moringa leaves and golden snails. Moringa leaf extract is known to have a crude protein content of 30.3% and 19 amino acid. In addition, it also contains the following minerals: calcium, phosphor, magnesium, potassium, sodium, sulfur, zinc, copper, manganese, iron, and selenium. Moyo et al. 2011. The mineral content of golden snails include calcium, sodium, potassium, phosphor, magnesium. Goat snails also contain micronutrients or macro minerals, namely iron, zinc, and etc. This study aims to examine the effect of application of liquid organic fertilizer from moringa leaves and golden snails with different fertilizer concentration on rice growth. Materials and methods. Soil sampling. The research was conducted at the greenhouse of Palur Disease Control Laboratory, Mojolaban, UNS Soil Chemistry Laboratory, UNS Plant Physiology Laboratory, and UGM PPG Laboratory. The research period starts from March 2021 to Augustus 2021. Materials and equipment. The materials used in this study was Mentik fragrant rice seeds obtained from organic rice farmer in Central Java, Karanganyar, Central Java. Moringa leaf were obtained from Moringa Gardens in the Tasik Madu area, Karanganyar, and golden snail were obtained from Sukoharjo. The tools for analysis include tool for analyzing nutrient content in soil, plant tissue, and liquid organic fertilizer. Experimental design. The experimental design was factorial with a completely randomized design as the basic design, consisting of 2 factors. The first factor, fertilizer application, SP1, moringa leaf extract, P2, moringa fermentation, P3, golden snail extract, P4, golden snail fermentation, P5, mixture of moringa and golden snail fermentation. And the second factor, concentration of fertilizer application, 1 2%, K2 4%, K3 6%, and K4 8%. Obtain 20 treatment combination. Each repeats 3 times, so there are 60 experimental units. Procedure, making fertilizer from moringa and golden snail, soil preparation, planting, and harvesting. Parameter of laboratory observation and analysis. Parameters observed were tissue N, tissue P, tissue K, tissue iron, and dry weight. Based on Bali Tanah 29. Data analysis. Data were statistically analyzed using ANOVA. 95% significance level, followed by Duncan multiple range test, DMRT. 95% significant level. Correlation test is carried to see the relationship between the observed parameters. Result and discussion. Dry weight. Based on the result of ANOVA, liquid organic fertilizer and organic concentration significantly affected the dry weight. In the statistic, p value less than 0.05. The interaction between liquid organic fertilizer and fertilizer concentration also significantly affected the dry weight, and the value p value less than 0.05. The treatment of golden snail extract with
Hi, have a nice day and welcome to my presentation. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Jasuki Rijabi from University Teknologi Mara, Malaysia. And I'm here today to present about effect of Biochar compost biocom on cadmium availability and plant growth. Let me start by giving you some background information. In recent years, the existence of cadmium in soil was increases, which is caused by agriculture activity. One of the factors that contributed existence of this heavy metal element is from over application of chemical fertilizer. According to Khan et al. 2017, existence cadmium in soil will reduce soil quality and increase the risk to human health. What is the other effect from existence of cadmium in soil? Plants that grow in the contaminated cadmium soil will resulting reduction in the plant growth. Also, this heavy metal element will increase the soil toxicity level and give the negative effect to the plant system. So how to reduce the accumulation heavy metal elements in the soils? One of the method that can be used is by application of biocom in cadmium contaminated soil. Application of biochar and compost mixture able to improve the soil fertility such as the soil pH, soil organic carbon, the availability of potassium in the soil, and increase the organic matter in the contaminated soils. Let we go to the next part, which is the methodologies. In compost production, it divided into two parts, which is the compost production and biochar production. Let we go to the first part, which is the compost production. The composting raw material will consist of 2.5 kg of oil palm empty bran, 5 kg of chicken manure, and 3.5 kg of peat moss, 2 bottles of Yakult and rice wash water, and 0.360 kg of green spinach. The ratio between the carbon sources and nitrogen used was 30:1. All the compost were mixed up in the composting bin. Next, we go to the second part, which is the biochar production. 11.5 kg of pumpkin shell was sterilized in the biochar burner with the range of temperature between 257 degrees Celsius to 353 degrees Celsius. Biochar was added into the composter bin at the day 15. The ratio that was used for biochar and compost mixture is 1:1. In this study, it is divided into one control with 3 treatment. For control, it was applied 0% of biocom. For treatment 1, it was applied with 10% of biocom. For treatment 2, 20% of biocom. And for treatment 3, 40% of biocom. All the treatment were applied with 1.095 gram of NPK for week 2, 3, and 4. All the treatment were applied with the 100 ml of cadmium solution. Let me go to the result and discussion for biocom analysis. As we can see from the table 2 here, which is a compost containing high in the nutrient content, percentage such as a high in the P, K, Ca, and Mg. pH of the biochar is highly alkaline compared with the pH of the compost, and for biocom is a medium alkaline. According to Zulfikar et al. 2019, combination of a compost and biochar contain the high of nutrient, which is improve the plant health, allow for a greater consumption and conservation of the carbon dioxide, resulting in improve the air quality. Because of its capacity to retain the soil nutrient for extended period of time, biochar in the biocom will help to minimize the application of fertilizer on the soils. Next, we go to the soil chemical properties. As we can see from the table 3 here, the result was show or no significant in the soil chemical properties between T0, T1, and T2 and T3 except for soil pH. The result at the figure 1 was show decrease pattern of the cadmium concentration in the soil when the rate of the biocom application increased. According to the Zeng et al. 2015, decreases of the CD concentration in the soil and increases the soil properties by application of the biochar and compost mixture into the contaminated cadmium soil. All this thing happen is because of the ion exchange mechanism in the biochar will attract the cadmium ion and increase the soil pH. At the same time, increase the soil nutrient content. From the previous study by Indiang et al. 2012 also found that a reduction in the level of the CD is in the soil 57% decrease after application of the biochar compost mixture. Next, we move to the green mustard nutrient uptakes. As we can see from the table 4, result was shown that no significant of CD percentage concentration in the green mustard yield. However, a concentration of the CD for treatment 1, 2, and 3 is the worst compared with the control as shown in the figure 2. From the previous study by Zunaidi et al. 2021 also found that no significant of the cadmium concentration in the green mustard yield. As mentioned by Abdul et al. 2017, reduction in the cadmium uptake which lead to increasing the nutrient content in the plants such as P and K at the biocom soil. Also from the previous study by Tian et al. 2017 found that addition of biochar in the soil was resulting reduction of the cadmium concentration in the plant tissue, which is similar with our finding study show at the figure 2. All these things happen is because of application of the biocom in CD contaminated soil will reduce the concentration of cadmium in the soil and increasing the process of nutrient uptakes. And last, we go to the result and discussion for year analysis of green mustard. As the result that show at the table 5, which is there is no significant result between TO with T1, T2, and T3s. However, from the result above, show that T3 perform highest in green mustard chlorophyll content percentage, dry weight, wet weight, and root length. According to Chiang et al. 2003, so that was treated with CD solution resulting reduction in Brassica juncea growth performance. As we can see from table 5, the chlorophyll content was increased when the rate of biocom application increased. This is because addition of biochar in compost as a soil amendment increased the chlorophyll percentage and photosynthesis activities. As a conclusion, concentration of cadmium slightly reduced at the optimal application of biocom. The solubility, mobility, and toxicity of cadmium in soil was slightly reduced after application of biocom in the soil. Biocom not only remove the heavy metal element in the soil, but also supply the nutrient to the soil and the planting crop. And we can simply conclude that the best rate of the biocom in reducing cadmium concentration in the soil is 40%. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in 9th International Conference on Sustainable Agriculture and Environment 2022. It is a pleasure to be here with you all. Sorry if my English is bad. Before we begin our presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Rahmatullah Rizik. I'd like to present our paper with the title Structural Transformation and Poverty Reduction, a study in West Kalimantan Province. This paper we did together with Dr. Ekawati. We are lecturers at Faculty of Agriculture, Panchabakti University, Pontianak. We are going to start from introduction. At the region level, West Kalimantan Province has the second largest GRDP output after East Kalimantan and has a good Gini ratio index value. However, the number of poor people in West Kalimantan is the biggest compared to other provinces on the island of Kalimantan. That is a problem that must be found a solution. As we know, Indonesia economic history has not that high economic growth is not effective in reduction poverty and creating equitable income distribution. Looking at economic growth data, West Kalimantan is not inferior to other provinces in Kalimantan. Even in 2021, economic growth needs to be directed to economic sector that effectively reduce poverty and create an even distribution of income. Understanding the characteristic of sectoral economic growth and the direction of the structural transformation of a region is essential to be able to find which economic sector are effective in overcoming the problem of labor surplus in the agriculture sector, and with economic while creating an equitable distribution of income. So far, research on this theme in West Kalimantan is still lacking. Therefore, this research is essential to be done. Based on the explanation about the study, I am to first investigate if there has been a structural transformation in West Kalimantan, and second, examine whether the sector GRDP affects poverty reduction in West Kalimantan. Research method. This research phase include First, data collection. Second, data processing. Third, data analysis. And fourth, report preparation. This research was conducted in Pontianak. The data used is time series data from 1910 to 1990. The result of report from BPS and the West Kalimantan Office of Bank Indonesia. The formula used to analyze the structural transformation of the economy of West Kalimantan Province as the first aim is the Sipser-Estaban-Marquillas analysis. The analysis used for the second aim use multiple linear regression analysis. Result and discussion. Table 1 above show that national income growth provides positive impact on the growth of the agriculture sector of West Kalimantan. This is indicated by the positive GIG value. The proportional shift of the agriculture sector in the province has also positive value. This indicates that the agricultural sector in the region is proportionally following the sector growth nationwide, which is also steadily increasing. In addition, the result of the analysis also show that the agricultural sector is the leading sector in the West Kalimantan, seen from the positive HCI value. This finding is supported by the study which states that an economic sector with a competitive advantage in agricultural sector. This explains that the growth and rules of the agricultural sector is relatively better than other sectors in the economy. This is indicate that structural transformation has not occurred in the economy of West Kalimantan. The estimation result of the process regression equation provide the following result. Before analyzing the result of the estimation of the poverty regression model, we will first be seen whether there are classical assumption violation in the model to be analyzed. The identified violations were due to multicollinearity, autocorrelation, heteroscedasticity, and simultaneity bias. The result is shown at the table. No violation of classical assumptions were found in the estimate model. Regression analysis shown at table 6. All independent variables have a significant effect on the number of poor people. Nevertheless, there is a different relationship direction. The GRDP of agricultural sector and services sector has a negative effect on the number of poor people. This means that if a growth happens in the two sectors, the number of poor people will decrease. The growth in agricultural sector reduce more poor people than services sector. This result show that there are many people in West Kalimantan who rely on the agricultural sector. Meanwhile, the RDP on the industrial sector has a positive effect on the number of poor people in the province. This means that if a growth happens in industrial sector, the number of poor people will increase. The reason is that the industrial sector is a capital-intensive sector, so the result of its growth do not have a significant impact on workers. The conclusion of this paper are: first, structural transformation has not occurred in the economy of West Kalimantan. Second, the agricultural sector is still a hope for the people in the province due to its big role in poverty reduction. Meanwhile, the industrial sector makes the number of poor people increase. Third, the inadequate of the industrial sector in terms of reduction the poor in West Kalimantan is likely due to the minimum involvement of the people or workforce in the sector. Suggestions are: first, to build industry that can absorb local workers. Second, to build an industry that has a great interest in the agriculture and service sector. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for all the presentation. I'm really sorry on behalf of the committee. We apologize that for the presentation number 168, we have to cut the video before it finished. So to Ibu Sri Rahmawati, are you still here? Ibu Sri Rahmawati? Oh, yeah.
Yes, here.
Yeah, really sorry that we cannot display your video completely, but I believe that everyone here would like to know. Just could you the findings of your research? So could you please just briefly summarize the finding from your research?
Oh, sorry.
Can you hear me clearly? Or you can just read the, I'm sorry, the conclusion. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I can hear. Yes, I can hear Mrs. Elisa. Yes. Okay. Please repeat your question. Urgent.
Yeah. Okay. Because we cannot see your video completely until finish. So could you please just summarize the findings of your research, like just in the conclusion part, you just explain it to us.
Okay. My title includes on content of NPK, FA, and rice plant. And conclusion in my study, so that the application of liquid liquid fertilizer from moringa leaf and golden snails on rice growth was able to increase to content NPK and iron rice plant.
Oh, I see. So biofortification with liquid from the moringa leaves successfully increase the micronutrients in the rice plants, right? Okay, thank you very much. Okay,
Yes.
we have one
Yes,
question.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We have one question here from Ms. Cornelia to Mr. Joseph Gary. What is the mechanism in biocom that can reduce cadmium in soil? Ms. Gary?
Hello.
Can you answer? Yes, hello.
Yes. Thanks for the question. So what is the mechanism in reducing cadmium in the soil? So actually the ion exchange mechanism in biochar, which is in biocom, my product will be more attract to the heavy metal elements such as cadmium ion when the soil pH is lower than the pH of the biochar at the PZC, which is a point of the zero change, zero charge. So and this thing was resulting the soil pH significant higher as shown in the 40% of the biocom application compared with the other treatment and controls. So that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, is it does it answering the question from Ms. Cornelia? Do you have any feedback?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gary, for the clear and clear answer.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we're entering to the recess time, but unfortunately we only have a very short recess. We will start again the presentation at 10:20 sharp Western Indonesia time. So to all participants, please just stand by in this room and you can have maybe tea time or something. Yeah, and we will start again 10:20. See you later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Representative of Mr. Suwarto, perhaps Sabja Anantanyu or Joko Winarno, Putri Permatasari, Agung Wibowo? No response. Okay, no response. So we would like to skip and invite ID number 43, Sri Yuliani.
Yes,
Ms.
I'm
Sri
ready.
Yuliani. Okay, thank you. And ID number 53, Ms. Khairunisa.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. And one more presentation, ID number 54, Miss Reni Eka Septiani.
Yes, Miss, I have a question.
Thank you. So it's great that three presenter are ready. So to the operator, I'll repeat again. We will play the video recording from presentation ID number 43, 53, and 54. Could you please help with the video? Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Sri Liani from Doctoral Study Program in Development Extension and Community Development Universitas 11 Maret, Surakarta. In this conference, I'd like to present my paper entitled Participation of Children Forum in the Development of Child-Friendly Public Spaces as Smoke-Free Areas. I'll begin with the introduction. Let me start with some information on the issue of child-friendly public space, smoke-free areas, and sustainable development goals. Child-friendly public space is the target of Sustainable Development Goals number 11, Sustainable Cities and Communities, which by 2030 target universal access to green open spaces and public spaces that are safe and inclusive and accessible, especially for children, women, the elderly, and persons with disabilities. Clear air free from cigarette smoke pollution is one of the characteristics of child-friendly public spaces. It means that the development of public spaces as smoke-free areas is a fulfillment of children's rights to a healthy environment. According to United Nations Organization, the children's right to a healthy environment need to be prioritized because children are more at risk from environmental problems than adults, but their views and interests are often left out of decision. Therefore, the participation of children is one of the principles that must be considered to ensure the right of children to enjoy a healthy environment. Based on the description and the problem in introduction, this research aims to examine how the Surakarta Children Forum, as an official institution to voice children's aspiration in development, participates in developing public spaces for children as smoke-free areas. Next, the method. This research employs qualitative methods. Informants were selected purposefully, consisting members and facilitators of Surakarta Children Forum and Women Empowerment, Child Protection, and Community Empowerment Agency. This research also employs secondary data sources taken from document archives, government regulation, newspapers, magazines, either printed or electronic. Data collection was conducted using observation, in-depth interview, and focus group discussion. Data analysis was carried out using an interactive model of analysis consisting of three components: data reduction, data display, and conclusion drawing. Next, the result and discussion. Firstly, I'll start with the description of child-friendly spaces in Indonesia. Child-friendly spaces are spaces built to fulfill children's right to healthy environment. Child-friendly spaces are designated as smoke-free areas, namely an area that are declared prohibited for smoking on the activities of producing, selling, advertising, and or promoting tobacco products. In order to prevent the impact of cigarette smoke on children's health and reduce the number of young smokers, the local government in Indonesia formulates a smoke-free area policy. However, it turns out that the existence of a smoke-free area policy does not guarantee a reduction in smoking activities in areas designated as smoke-free. The 2018 Basic Health Research noted an increase in the number of smokers aged 10 to 18 years from 7.2% in 2013 to 9.1% in 2019. This means that in 10 years, there has been an increase of almost 240%. Let's turn to the next issue, the participation of Surakarta Children Forum in the development of child-friendly public space in as areas, smoke-free areas. And profile on the right of children to public space, the Surakarta city government has built 14 playgrounds named Taman Cerdas or Smart Park. Nevertheless, smokers and cigarette butts and spikes are still found in Taman Cerdas. The Surakarta Children Forum as a medium for children participation in development is motivated to voice children's aspiration for a healthy and smoke-free environment. The participation of Surakarta Children Forum in development of child-friendly public spaces as smoke-free areas is carried out in 3 ways, namely, first, cigarette butt picking movement and mapping of cigarette advertisement promotion and sponsorship. This activity has for 9,000 cigarette spots and 1,450 cigarette advertisement in various forms. Second, advocacy for a smoke-free area policy to control smoke behavior in public space. The number of cigarette spots found in playground and mapping of cigarette advertisement, promotion, and sponsorship have been successfully used as data for advocating for the ratification of regional regulation for smoke-free areas. However, the existence of a legal basis on smoke-free area does not significantly affect smoking behavior in public spaces, as evidence 2,495 cigarette spots were found in 5 Taman Cerdas and 2 children playgrounds during 2021. Third, communication, information, and education on the danger of smoking. After the ratification of Surakarta regional regulation concerning smoke-free areas, efforts to create child-friendly public spaces were carried out by developing communication, information, and education in the form of stickers, pamphlets, banners, posters about the dangers of smoking, cigarette smoke distributed in playground and public parks. Awareness of the dangers of smoking is also carried out through digital live program, webinars, talk competition, advocacy, and hearing with major legislative members and related agencies. Finally, this research concluded that child-friendly public spaces are one of the goals of Sustainable Development Goals number 11, which is to provide inclusive, safe, and healthy public spaces for children, women, the elderly, and people with disabilities. Clean air free from cigarette smoke pollution is one of the characteristics of child-friendly public spaces. The participation of Surakarta Children Forum succeeded in passing the ratification of smoke-free area policy, but could not contain the effectiveness of its implementation. The obstacles to the effectiveness of the implementation of the local regulation on smoking-free areas are the low public awareness of the danger of cigarette smoke for children and the weak commitment of the local government to enforce controls on cigarette consumption, as well as advertising, promotion, and sponsorship of cigarettes. The priority of local government is to maintain the contribution cigarette tax to local revenue so that not many regions actually prohibit 100% of cigarette advertising, promotion, and sponsorship in that area. That's all my presentation. Thank you for the attention.
Hi everyone, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Hairunisa binti Abdul Ghani. I am from University Technology Mara UiTM Malaysia. and I'm here today to present on a research study with the title of Effects of Precursor Feeding of Phenylalanine on Accumulation of Selected Flavonoids in Adventitious Root Suspension Cultures of Boswellia rotunda. The co-authors in this study are Associate Professor Dr. Nur Azma Yusuf from UiTM and Professor Nozulani Khalid from University Malaya. So this is the presentation overview, which include introduction, materials, methods, results and discussion, conclusions, and some of the references. As the introduction, I would like to give a brief introduction on the plants that we have been working on. It is called Boswellia rotunda. It belongs to the Zingiberaceae or the ginger family. It is called finger root and locally known as temu kunci in Malaysia and Indonesia. It is a monocot and perennial plant which believed to be native to Java and Sumatra. This plant is highly distributed in India, China, Sri Lanka, and Southeast Asian countries such as Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. The nature of this plant, it can easily be found in shaded and humid area, and the variety can be identified according to the rhizome's color. So the main interest in this study will be the medicinal properties in this plant, okay, which comes from the flavonoids. So the flavonoids in this plant is the most abundant compounds which were found in the rhizomes of the plant. So there are three selected flavonoids that were studied in this study. They are pinostrobin, cardamomine, and pendoratin A. So despite the importance of the flavonoids in this plant, there are some of issues or problems that have been addressed. Okay, first, the flavonoid compounds are low in nature. Second, overharvesting of the plants often occurred in order to obtain these bioactive compounds in large quantity. Third, the quality of secondary metabolites extracted outside may be affected by the unforeseen environmental conditions. And fourth, the chemical synthesis process of these flavonoids are tremendously challenging and costly. Due to this, okay, plant tissue culture come in hand, okay, to overcome this problem. And in this study, we choose adventitious root cultures, as this culture is believed to be very simple and easy to culture, genetically stable, and ensures consistent production of secondary metabolites. And third, easy to scale up into bigger vessels such as bioreactors. So we choose precursor feeding strategy in this study as this strategy was previously proven effective to induce and increase some of the plant secondary metabolites in several studies, as stated in the slide. So we choose phenylalanine as the precursor in this study, as this compound is a substrate to synthesize the flavonoids in Boswellia rotunda. And this compound and this phenylalanine also has been used in both study by Tan et al. 2012 and Mat Mustafa et al. In 2014 in a cell culture for Boswellia rotunda. So the main objective of this study is to study the effects of precursor feeding of phenylalanine in different concentration on the accumulation of selected flavonoid in vitro adventitious root cultures of Boswellia rotunda. Moving on to the methodology, there are two parts of methodology, okay, which include plant tissue culture and also HPLC analysis. For plant tissue culture, the plant materials are obtained from the established in vitro adventitious root cultures, which previously induced from in vitro hypocotyls. So these root will be were cultured in half-strength MS medium plus 0.5 milligram per liter NaA, and different concentration of phenylalanine were fed in this culture medium with a concentration of 0 to 60 millimolar per liter phenylalanine. So after 5 weeks of culture, we measured the root biomass, okay, in terms of fresh weight FW and also dry weight DW, and we also recorded some of the morphological changes, and we run some statistical analysis before we go to the HPLC analysis to detect and quantify the selected flavonoids. So the data collection will be the fresh weight was determined after 5 weeks of culture. Meanwhile, the dry weight was obtained by drying the adventitious roots in the oven at 38 degrees Celsius for 72 hours or until we get a constant weight. So the statistical analysis in this study, we used one-week ANOVA, where all the means were compared by Duncan's multiple range test by the SPSS program version 21. So this is the sample extraction method, which have been established by Yusuf et al. In 2013. And this is the analysis of selected flavonoids using the HPLC system. Also has been established by Yusuf et al. 2013. So the selected flavonoids of pinostrobin, cardamomine, and pendiretin A have been quantified, okay, and calculated using this formula. Moving on to the results and discussion, after 5 weeks of culture, we found that there is no significant difference in fresh weight. However, there is a significantly higher average of dry weight found in treatment 20 millimolar per liter of phenylalanine. For the accumulation of selected flavonoid, it was discovered that the ideal concentration of phenylalanine is correlated to the root biomass, which this treatment, 20 millimolar per liter of phenylalanine, produced the highest selected flavonoids and also significantly higher production of flavonoids compared to the other control samples. And the selected flavonoid was found to be 4.7 folds higher for pinostrobin, 11.1 folds higher for cardamomine, and 20 folds higher for pendiretin A. So as the discussions in this study, precursor feeding is definitely
Hello everyone, I'm Raini. In this occasion, I will present about my research. My title research is Analysis of the Effect of Macroeconomics and Access to Health Services on Stunting Interprovince in Indonesia. The author of this research is me, Raini Eka Septiani, Ms. Tri Mulyaningsih, and Mr. Mulyanto. Introduction. SDGs has 17 program sustainable development goals, one of which of the second point, namely ending hunger, achieving food security and better nutrition to encourage sustainable agriculture. One form of action in order to realize this goal is the handling of the stunting problem. Stunting is a condition of children who have less height when compared to their age. The problem of stunting has become the focus government because the stunting in Indonesia is high. Stunting fact in Indonesia, the prevalence of stunting occupies the highest position compared to other nutritional problems. The stunting rate in Indonesia occupies the third highest position among Southeast Asian countries. The percentage of stunting under 5 in Indonesia, which is still above the standard set by World Health Organization of 20%. Effect of stunting include decreased cognitive development, school achievement, and future fertility. Factors of to period stunting include economic growth, income inequality, human development index, poverty, government spending on health sector, and access to health services. Economic growth will be an increase the people income, which in turn can improve the nutritional status, and more equitability distribution of income leads to increase in living standard in the form of improving health and nutritional status. The influence of poverty on the level of poor health be explained through 14 unhealthy habits, allostatic burden, inability to access health services, and choice that not are optimal. Human Development Index value in a country, the higher the welfare of people in that country, so the problem related to stunting can be suppressed. Health expenditure is a component of national income that has important role in improving the achievement of Indonesia health status, and then the coverage of supplementary feeding for pregnant women with chronic energy deficiency represent the variable access to health services, that is service program for stunting prevention. This study aims to analyze the effect of economic growth, income inequality, human development index, poverty, government spending on the health sector, and access to health services on the prevalence of stunting in Indonesia. This is quantitative explanatory research, and the data is panel data from 34 provinces of Indonesia from 2019 until 2017 until 2019. Chow test and Hausman test. The result of Hausman test is that the approach used is a random effect model and hypothesis testing. Correlation economic growth on stunting is positive significant. Income inequality on stunting positive not significant. Human development index negative significant. Percent poverty negative not significant, health sector government spending positive not significant, and supplementary feeding coverage for pregnant women chronic energy deficiency negative significant. Economic growth not reduce the stunting because economic growth is not evenly distributed and increased income in the community is not spent on needs that can improve nutritional status. Based on data, in Indonesia, cigarette consumption occupies the second highest position compared to consumption of nutritious food. Analysis of the effect income inequality and stunting, the results show that income inequality is no significant positive effect on stunting, and this result in line with research from Africa. Human Development Index and stunting has significant negative. Low Human Development Index is associated with a high rate of disease transmission and worsening nutritional status. Analysis of the effect of poverty on stunting is not significant because other factors also determine nutritional status, such as maternal education, social birth spacing, and low nutrient food in children under the age of 2 years, and parents do not associate problem stunting with providing nutritious food, but parents assume that stunting is hereditary. Analysis effect government spending on health sector is not significant because an increased government spending on health causes private health spending to fall. Expenditure are allocated for healthcare, but complementary services, but both inside and outside healthcare inadequate. Corruption is still occurs. Analyze effect access to health services on stunting. Reducing stunting prevalence requires direct nutritional investment, provision supplementary food for pregnant women with chronic energy deficiency as a form intervention for specific nutrition programs or reduce stunting. Conclusion, the result estimation, economic growth has positive significance. The growth of income is not evenly distributed and income increase not spent on nutrition. Increase not inclusive economic development and policies that lead to stunting rejection. The Human Development Index and better access to health service are proven to lower stunting prevalence. Some policies, optimizing nutrition service, consultation, and education for pregnant women is very much needed. Okay, I think enough, and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for very nice presentation. Now it's time for QA. Do we have any question here? Yeah, I'll be waiting for maybe 5 seconds. You have something to ask to the presenter? No one seems having any question. Okay, I have a question to Ms. Khairunisa. Ms. Khairunisa,
Yes.
yeah, you added phenylalanine, right, as a precursor for feeding of, in effort to get the accumulation of selected flavonoids. If I'm not mistaken, so based on your result, the phenylalanine will then only affect on the secondary metabolite pathway and not interfering with any of the pathway for the primary metabolite.
Sorry?
You measure the growth.
Yeah.
And yeah. That means that, and there is no change, right? There is no significant difference in any treatment, right?
For my study, we found out that after 5 weeks of culture, the feeding of phenylalanine into the culture medium did not interfere with the growth.
It did not
But
interfere.
most of the studies, they kind of like interfere with the growth. But for my study,
this is interesting.
yeah.
You can just switch. Contributing only to the pathway for the secondary metabolites only, right?
Yeah, correct.
Flavonoid content. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I would like to confirm. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there is no more question, let's move to the next talk. Okay. Oh yeah, we have Mr. Hamka raising hand or raising hand or what? No, maybe not raising hand. It's, no, Mr. Hamka, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
I'm addressing question to Miss ID Mr. Eka Septiani. So what actually make the children stunting? You say that you in your conclusion that is a external factor that macroeconomic, or you can say that the government policy. So it still happen that there is a child was stunting. What is actually the factor that caused that? Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hamka, I'm so sorry. Can you repeat your question?
Okay, Mrs. Eka said that stunting was caused by his conclusion that is in his conclusion that it caused by the government policy, especially macroeconomic policy to health. No, so I'm asking, what is the actually make the children still stunting? Is an external factor, internal factor? They say that like male or education or other factors not impact to the stunting of the child. No, but if there is still stunting, what is the actually make that happen? Thank you.
Okay. Based on the result regression, it was found was significant negative effect between coverage supplementary feeding to pregnant women with chronic energy deficient on prevalence stunting. These results are supported by previous research, although with different proxies, we state the access to health service in the form of length of travel time, and another study from the access to health services. The result estimation so that economic growth positive effect on stunting. Now, the economic and the growth of income is not evenly distributed. Income increase not spent on nutrition, and increasing inclusive economic development and policies that lead to stunting reduction, because the index of economic inclusive in Indonesia is 6, and this index can increase again until maximum index until 10, and the Human Development Index and better access to health proven to lower stunting. Some policies recommendation is improving access to health services because if the intake of protein, because its services program about provision of supplementary food is very neat for pregnant women.
Is that all, Ms. Rani? How about Mr. Hamka? Do you have any feedback, or is it enough?
No, it's enough for my question.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Because our time is up now, we have to move to the next term. I would like to invite presenter from IT number 55. Do you
Yes,
have? Okay, yeah, thank you. And then ID number 56.
Yes, me too.
Okay, thank
Still
you.
me.
Oh, okay. So you are representing that. Okay, to talk. And next, one more presentation from ID number 87. I hope she's also here. Oh, Bapak Susilo Hambek Poromarto. Bapak Susilo? No? Okay,
Yeah,
we move to, okay. All right. So three presenters are already here. IT number 55, IT 56, and also IT 87. To Ms. Margareta as the new operator, could you please prepare and play the video? Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, good evening, dear presenters and also participants. I am Tasnim Lubis from Universitas Sumatera Utara. In this paper, I collaborate with Abiulail Delima, Nurul Adila, and Ahdial Farhan Abus. In this paper is presented at the 9th International Conference on Sustainable Agriculture and Environment. Our paper title is Revitalization Boh Gadung as Ethnobotanical Garden in Simeulue Island. Boh Gadung or fruit gadung, in Latin Dioscorea alata, is a typical plant in Simeulue Island. This fruit includes in the tuber group. The shape is like taro but huge. The color is purple and the taste is similar like taro, a little bit. And this is the description of Boh Gadung. Fruit gadung usually grows in the bush and has many benefits as a staple food on Simeulue Island. At present, Boh Gadung is rarely to find. Meanwhile, the benefit of this food is good for health. The objective of the study is to expose Boh Gadung as a typical plant on Simeulue Island for its benefit, especially for Simeulunese. This is the location of our study in Simeulue Island, Aceh Province, Indonesia. The location of Simeulue Island is on the westernmost of Sumatra Island. So we zoom it, Simeulue Island, it consists of 10 districts, which is our location of the study is on the westernmost of this island. The method is ethnography, and we collect the data by recording, by doing documentation about gadung fruit, and then interview, depth interview, and also participant observation. For our method, there are 12-step program. It is proposed by Spratly. It's beginning from locating an informant and then interviewing an informant and then making an ethnographic record, asking descriptive questions, analyzing ethnographic interviews, making a domain analysis, and asking structural question, making a taxonomic analysis, and asking contrast question, making a componential analysis, and discovering cultural themes until writing an ethnography. For domain analysis, we have to determine the semantic relationship. In this study, we use semantic relationship reason. So revitalization Boh Gadung is a reason for the existence of Boh Gadung itself as a typical plant and one of staple food in Simalu Island. This is Boh Gadung pictures. You can see the color is purple, and then the shape just like this is really huge. And the description of the plant looks like taro actually. This plant grows on flatland up to an altitude of 800 above sea level, but can also grow at an altitude of 2,700 mdpi. In the dry season, the tubers have a period of rest in order not to rot. Usually the tubers are stored in a place dry or wrapped in ashes. Toward the rainy season, these bulbs will sprout. Bulbs that have sprouted are used as seed. After planting period 9 until 12 months, the tubers can be harvested. And for revitalization itself, Lubis 2018 and 2019 states a model for revitalizing oral tradition through digital documentation, while using the first step is to document the oral tradition in audio-video form so that it can be viewed audio-visually. Documentation by audio-video documenting the performance of the oral tradition as a whole. So it is very important to revitalize from now on. And for the conclusion, the ethnobotanical garden of Gadung Fruit could be developed into a potential garden as one of the foodstuffs on Simalu Island. Gadung's fruit revitalization needs to be conducted regarding the essence of this typical plant towards Simalunese welfare based on their local wisdom. That's all our presentation. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon or good morning, dear presenter and also participants. I am Tasnim Lubis from Universitas Sumatera Utara. In this paper, I collaborate with Ahdial Farhan Abus as the head of Aceh Landscape Development Center, and also Abiul Lail, Nanda Saputra, and Nurul Adila Alatas Abus. This paper is presented at the NET International Conference on Sustainable Agriculture and Environment. Our paper entitled Food Security Campaigns Toward Sustainable Goals of Agriculture in Simalu Island. About food security, the standard definition came from the World Bank in 1988 and Maxwell with Frankenberger in 1992 in Suharyanto 2011, defined food security as access at all times for all people to sufficient food for a healthy life. Mexico in 2007 stated that food security is a condition when all people have access physically, socially, and economically towards sufficient food, secure and nutritious for their necessary depend on their appetites to live productively and healthy. So the word depends on appetizing is often forgotten by the many sides, including the government. Food security based on cultural effort deals with the access to have sufficient food and appropriate with the community's local knowledge or fulfill their needs achieved from their ancestor and passed to the generation. And it is essential to maintain oral tradition because language can shape the human mind concept related to their way of life. Simalunese, especially those who live in Langi village, had applied food security based on cultural effort. Hence, the situation of food self-sufficiency had created and they could survive in facing the situations. This is the location of our study in Simalu Island, Aceh Province, Indonesia. The location is on the westernmost of Sumatra Island, and the Barat Island or Simalu Island, here we can see which is marked by the red color. And this is Simalu Island map. It consists of 10 districts. We can see this, there are Tepah Selatan, Simalu Timur, Tepah Barat, and then Simalu Tengah, Teluk Dalam, Salang, Simalu Barat, and also Alafan, which is located on the westernmost of this island. The objective of the study is to describe the relationship between food security and the role of the local chief or leader in motivating his community to maintain the typical plants as the sources for the main food. And the method we use is qualitative study and ethnography method to describe humans' role and surrounding, because humans are responsible for making their life and environment harmony, especially on food security. So for data collection, we do these things. First, we have to recording and then interview the speakers, which is the community of Simelones, and then participant observation. And ethnography method by Spradley in 1979 consists of 12 steps from locating an informant until writing an ethnography. And then the rice standardization as a welfare area is not appropriate to be settled in all places in Indonesia. Formerly, Simelones already knew and consumed other main food except for rice, namely sagu and taub. Taub is a mangrove fruit, as their main food. However, the policy had changed their mind to consume rice as their main food instead of sagu. So these are staple food that we got from the recording and also interview from the Simelones. They have sagu, and then they have taub, because of that mangrove fruit, which is have to be processed first before they consume it. And then they also have talu in Lekon language, which is paru. And from the recording and the interview result, it is known that the role of the chief as the informal leader has more opportunity and power to listen. It is known that in the past, the role of the local chief succeed in influencing and convincing his community to consume rice as the main food and affected the community to grow rice, even though the environment was not supported enough. So for the conclusion, inhabitants in Simeulue Island still respect to their local chief or leader regarding with the messages delivering, because performance of advice is applied in this area. Consequently, the local chief role is essential to campaign again to convince his community on food security towards sustainable goals based on local wisdom. Thank you very much for your attention in Lekon language.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Krishna Hermawan. At this time, I will present the results of our research with the title of Decrease in Population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae in Garlic Cultivation with the Application of Mycorrhizae and Organic Fertilizer. And this is our theme. Introduction. Garlic is an annual vegetable horticultural commodity that is economically feasible with an LTV value 7.75 more than 1. So it is a commodity that can be seeded and developed in Karanganyar Regency. Basal rot caused by Fusarium oxysporum forma specialis cepae or FOCE is one of the important diseases in garlic cultivation. Basal rot aggravated by the presence of parasitic nematodes such as Ditylenchus gypsaceae. Ditylenchus gypsaceae is frequently attack garlic in the province of Central Java and affected or mostly inhibited by mycorrhizal fungi and algal soils microbe complex. Organic fertilizers can suitable for soil microbes and increase plant growth and resistance. This picture shows that Ditylenchus gypsaceae causes basal rot resulting in rotten tubers, small in size, and easily uprooted from the soil. The objectives is to study the effect of application of mycorrhizae and organic fertilizer to the population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae in garlic cultivation. This research was conducted in June until September 2021 on farmers' land with undersoil soil type and located in Tawangmangu, Karanganyar, Central Java at an altitude of 100 meters above sea level. The research method used is randomized complete block design with 2-factor and 7 treatment. And the treatment used is mycorrhizae, mycorrhizae and compost, has charcoal, mycorrhizae and has charcoal, mycorrhizae, compost and has charcoal, and control treatment. Extraction of the Ditylenchus gypsaceae is carried out by the modified Baerman-Fundel method, and nematode population density is calculated using the formula NPD is number of individuals of a genus per sample unit volume, and the data analysis using effectiveness value and using ANOVA and DMRT level 5%. Okay, let's talk about the result. This is a picture of the Ditylenchus gypsaceae taken using a microscope with 40 times magnification, visible shape of stylet, tail, and body of Ditylenchus gypsaceae. And this is chart show that mycorrhiza and compost, and a combination of mycorrhiza, compost, and has charcoal treatment can reduce the population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae and have a significantly with control treatment. While the treatment of mycorrhiza, has charcoal, and a combination of mycorrhiza and has charcoal was able to reduce the population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae, but have a non-significantly effect. The effectiveness value of the population decline of its treatment varies. The treatment with the highest effectiveness was found in mycorrhizae mixed with compost and has charcoal treatment with 48.52%, while the lowest effectiveness was found in mycorrhizal treatment alone with 18.45%. Possibly mechanism of compost in suppressing Ditylenchus gypsaceae population. Compost can release harmful compounds or physicochemical properties such as nutrient and organic molecules such as biomix, phenol, or bioactive compounds that are harmful to Ditylenchus gypsaceae. And composting, increasing competition between microbial population with antibiosis and hyperparasitism. Possibly mechanism of mycorrhizae in suppressing Ditylenchus gypsaceae population. Mycorrhizae can improve the absorption of mineral nutrients that can promote plant growth. That can decrease the overall performance of Ditylenchus gypsaceae. Mycorrhiza causes change in root exudate patterns that can minimize the risk of infection and reduce the damage caused by Ditylenchus gypsaceae. And possibly mechanism of has charcoal in suppressing Ditylenchus gypsaceae population. Has charcoal can improve the porosity of the soil so that it is good for root expression and retail soil moisture, and promote the growth of microorganisms beneficial to the soil and plants. As charcoal contains silica, which plays a role in increasing disease resistance caused by Ditylenchus gypsaceae. Conclusion: our treatment containing compost can decrease the population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae and have a significantly effect on the decline of the population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae. Mycorrhiza has charcoal, and a combination of the two treatment without compost can decrease the population of Ditylenchus gypsaceae, but have no significant effect. And here's the end of our presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nur Hidayah from Graduate School Program of Animal Science, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia. I would like to present our paper. The title is Chemical Composition of Brown and Red Alga from Calapaphytes to Ban Java and their potential as ruminant feed. For the introduction, based on the data, Indonesia has become one of the world's major producers of wet seaweed. Wet seaweed production in Indonesia in 2018 reached 10.32 million tons, but the export value in 2020 only reached 177,000 tons. So many abundant the alga in Indonesia. We know that seaweed, there are three seaweed, red, brown, and green alga. And many researchers interested about the alga for the ruminant feed because they have high nutrition and high of secondary metabolites. And many research reported or some research reported that alga can decrease the methane emission and increase the animal production, especially in ruminant. But studies on the chemical composition of tropical alga species from Indonesia have not been widely reported. So the objective in this research want to identify the chemical composition of 4 tropical alga species from Indonesia, especially from north coast of Java. We collected 4 species alga, natural alga. There were 2 species from brown alga, Laminaria sp and Padina australis, and red alga, Gracilaria sp and Aucema cottoni from Kalapa Beach, Tuban, East Java, Indonesia in April 2022. After we collected, we cleaned the alga with water and then dried under the sun and grind it until the fine powder. And after that, we analyze the proximate using AOAC method and cross energy with bomb calorimeter. This is our result. First, we discuss about the diameter. The diameter less than 40%, because fishery commodities commonly consist of very high water content, even it might differ from each other due to the habitat and environment condition of the species. The high water content of alga causes it easy to deteriorate, so technology to prevent deterioration or preservation is needed. For the mineral content, the mineral content is more than 20%. That is potential for the mineral source for ruminant. This condition potential to replacement of tropical grass or mineral supplementation for ruminant feed, because based on the Castro, Montoya, and Dickover reported that tropical grass deficiencies in micromineral or macromineral compared with the requirement of grazing and lactating dairy cattle. For the research, the brown alga have the average of us from brown alga higher than red alga, because brown alga contain of alginic acid, alginate, and sal alginic acid, which have higher absorption rate than green and red alga. For the crude protein content, less than 13%, the result different with the Mead et al. 2021 reported that many alga have high of crude protein, more than 20 until 40%. The different result because the different of type of alga and differentiation period of the harvesting of alga can influence the crude protein. For the ether extract or crude fat, less than 3%, because alga generally store their food reserve in the form of carbohydrate, especially in polysaccharides. From the result, we know that Echema cottony, the highest of crude fat and linear with the gross energy. This result indicated that Echema cottony have potential to be energy source than laminaria, than other of alga in this research. And for the crude fiber, less than 10%, that is potential because that potential to be more degradable in the rumen. This is with our result. And for the conclusion, brown alga, Laminaria sp, and Padina australis, and red alga, Echema cottony, and Gracilaria sp are potential as ruminant feed, especially in mineral source. I would like to thanks for the Universitas Gadjah Mada, Yogyakarta, Indonesia, that support the research by Rekognisi Tugas Akhir Grant 2022. Thanks for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much. Our last presenter is Ms. Nur Hidayah. I haven't called the name, and fortunately, she is here now. So we accidentally, I'm sorry, we accidentally play for video in row. So, but I think it's okay because also the time is still like a match with the overall session. Now we come to the QA. Do we have any question? I don't see chat or somebody raising hands here. No question? If there is no question, I have one question for ID number 87 about the decrease in population of the nematode in garlic cultivation. I think it's the presenter name is not the first author, so I'm a bit forget. ID 87, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, thank you. This one, Hermawan. Okay, Mr. Hermawan, you showed us, I mean, by the treatment of compost and other like organic fertilizers, it successfully reduced the number of the nematodes, right? Do you also observe the growth of the garlic itself?
Yeah, the treatment can reduce the population of Ditylenchus gypsacea, but we don't
You don't have the data for the growth of the garlic.
Oh no, I
no,
just
not yet. I see. Okay, I think it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be interesting if we can also see whether it has some effect or not on the garlic's growth. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
No
right.
more questions? Yeah. Okay, if there is no more question, I would like to move to the next term of presentation. Let's check here. ID number 147. Oh yeah, Dr. Hamka is here. Dr.
Yeah.
Hamka, are you ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. And ID 194. 194.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. 147 and 194 ready. And then the last presenter, ID 197, I was informed that she was moved to the poster session, so we will skip her.
Pardon me,
And I would like to return back to ID number 33. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
Yeah,
Amelia as a Dwi Prasetyani representative. I will present in this room. Pardon me.
Oh, you will be presenting in this room, not in the poster session? I'm sorry.
I'll present in oral session.
Oh, oral session. Okay. Can I ask, do you have you submitted the recording video? The video?
Not yet, not yet. I will
not yet.
directly present. Is that okay? Is it okay?
Okay, okay. Can you control it by yourself? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So to
Okay, thank you.
Margaret, yeah, thank you. To Margaret, could you please help us with the video from ID 147, ID 194, and then the last is ID 197. Ms. Dwi Prasetyani will present it by herself.
Hello, good morning to all conference participants. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Hamka Halkam, and the other authors of this study are Mr. Aimal Basar de Malino, Mr. M. Saleh S. Ali, and Mr. Sultan Suhab. I will present our study about the analysis of Indonesian edible birds nest export to China and Hong Kong in 2017-2021. The outline of this presentation are: first, the introduction; second, the objectives; third, the methods; fourth, the result and discussion; and last, the conclusion. Let's start for the introduction. Edible bird nest produced from the saliva of swiftlet. It consumed as food and medicine by humans. It's an expensive animal food and traded as a high-value commodity. Edible birds nest from Indonesia is produced by white nest swiftlet. Chinese community is in the main market for the products, especially in China, Taiwan, Singapore, and North America. So far, edible bird nests consumed only by the Chinese, so it is estimated that more than 90% of world edible bird nest production is consumed by the Chinese. For a century, they believed that and knew that it has many benefits for human health, and the scientific research already proved it. Indonesia is a major producer of edible bird nests. About 80% of the swiftlet population located in Indonesia. Indonesia's production capacity of edible bird nests is around 2,000 tons annually. So that is why Indonesia is able to supply 80% of the world's edible birds nest demand. From 2017 to 2021, Indonesia's edible bird nest export has increased significantly in terms of volume and value. In 2017, Indonesia edible bird nest export volume was 1,094 tons. It was worth $280. And in 2021, Indonesia's edible bird nest export volume was 1,510 tons and worth $517 million. So there is an increase 70% in terms of export volume, and there is a significant increase 84% in terms of export value in the last 5 years. Indonesia has already exported edible bird nests to 21 destination countries in the world. Among them, there are 11 countries become export destination country for Indonesia in every year. Year 2019 was a turning point year for Indonesia edible bird nest export destination for countries by volume. China and Hong Kong become main destination countries. In that year, 61% of the total volume of Indonesia's export was shipped to these countries, which in the previous years was only 28%. In 2020, Indonesia export to this country reached 88% and 81% in 2021. The objective of the study is to analyze the dynamics of Indonesia's edible bird nest export to China and Hong Kong during 2017 until 2021. Since these two countries are the main destination of Indonesian edible bird nest export, and there are differences in the dynamics of Indonesia's edible bird nest export activities to these two countries. This research, using secondary data that obtained from journals, research reports, mass media, and from various resources that related to the study. Mostly volume and value of export and import data is obtained from International Trade Center and Badan Pusat Statistik Indonesia. The data was analyzed by summarizing and presenting it, looking at the trends and comparing them, and then making a conclusion. Let's talk about the result and discussion. From 2017 to 2021, Indonesia edible bird nest export to China was increasing. In terms of volume, it increased by 313% or increased 50% annually during this period. In terms of value, it increased by 241% or increased 42% annually. China's edible bird nest import volume increased significantly by 353% in 2021 and compared to 2017, or increased by 53% annually during the period. For the last 3 years, Indonesia became the largest contributor to China import, which contributes 62% during this period. In terms of value, Indonesia's contribution to China's edible bird nest import was increased by 274%, or it increased 42% annually. Indonesia became the largest contributor to China import, that amount 69% in the last 5 years. For the last 5 years, Indonesia's edible bird nest export volume to Hong Kong was increased by 105%, or 34% annually. However, in terms of value, it was decreased by 29% or 6% annually during the period. In terms of volume, Hong Kong edible bird nest import was increased by 170% or 50% annually in the last 5 years. Indonesia is still the largest contributor for the Hong Kong import, which averaged 85% annually. In terms of value, Hong Kong edible bird nest import was decreased
by 41% or decreased 7% annually in the last 5 years. Indonesia, still the larger contributor, which contribute 56% annually in this period. Comparing the volume and value of Indonesia's edible bird nest export to China and Hong Kong. From 2017 to 2021, China and Hong Kong was the largest contributor for Indonesia's edible bird nest export in terms of volume and value. During the period, Hong Kong was the largest contributor by volume and China by value. This was due to price disparity between these countries. Comparing the
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Ikayanti Marfuatu Solihah. I'm a researcher from Research Center for Pharmaceutical Ingredients and Traditional Medicine, National Research and Innovation Agency, or Pusat Riset Bahan Baku Obat dan Obat Tradisional, Badan Riset dan Inovasi Nasional. Today, I would like to present my research, which is titled Cytotoxic Activity of Acalypha wilkesiana, Ziziphus numularia, and Glossidion zeylanicum on 41 breast cancer cell line. First, I want to start with the background of the research. As we know, cancer is the second leading cause of death worldwide. Based on the WHO data, breast cancer is the #1 cause of death both in developed and developing countries. Previous research found that Acalypha or Acalypha wilkesiana leaves, Bidara or Ziziphus numularia herbs, and Glossidion or Glossidion zeylanicum leaves, water extract have potential effect on breast cancer cell line. The study was aimed to examine the effect of the ethanol extract of medicinal plants on cell viability, cell cycle, and apoptosis in human breast cancer 41. These are the methods of the research. We collected the plant materials from different areas. We can see the picture of the plants below. The first picture is Acalypha, collected from Tawangmangu, and the second picture is Bidara, collected from Trisik Beach, Kulon Progo, and the last picture is Glossidion tree, collected from Magelang. The dried material were macerated using 96% ethanol for 72 hours. Cytotoxic assay against 41 cancer cells was evaluated by MTTC. Cells in 96 well pad were treated with series of concentration of extract for 24 hours. Fractionation was done by liquid-liquid partition using hexane, ethyl acetate, and methanol. Cell cycle profile and apoptosis induction of the most potent extract was observed using flow cytometry. We used linear regression to analyze the data of cytotoxic assay. The linear regression shows the correlation between concentration and cell's viability to obtain IC50 value. The flow cytometry data was analyzed using BD Accuracy J6 software. Now let's move to the results. Based on cell viability, each extract treatment showed a linear relationship between concentration and inhibitory activity of cell proliferation. Table 1 showed that the ethanol extract of Acalypha leaves had the strongest cytotoxic activity with IC50 values below 200 microgram per milliliter, exactly 171.83 microgram per milliliter. Two other test ingredients, ethanol extract of Bidara herb and Glossidion leaves, showed IC50 values above 200 microgram per milliliter. We can conclude that Acalypha extract is the most potential extract developed as a chemopreventive agent. Furthermore, Acalypha extract was fractionated by the liquid-liquid partition method using hexane, ethyl acetate, and methanol multilevel solvents to separate compounds based on their polarity. Each fraction was tested for its cytotoxic activity against 41 breast cancer cells. The IC50 values of each fraction are summarized in Table 2. The results of the cytotoxic test showed that the hexane fraction had the highest proliferation inhibitory activity with an IC50 value of 85.02 microgram per milliliter, the least compared to the other two fractions. This means that the hexane fraction is more potent than the other two fractions. The potential of this fraction needs to be tested for its cytotoxic activity against normal or non-cancerous cells to supplement its safety data so that it can be further developed as anti-cancer agent. Observation of cell morphology shown in Figure 1 shows that Acalypha extract resulted in changes in cell morphology compared to cell control. From Figure 1, it appears that there is inhibition of proliferation in cells treated with Acalypha extract. Changes in cell morphology were most evident in the administration of Acalypha extract concentration of 100 microgram per milliliter. These changes in the form of shrinking cell size, cells appear to float, and the bonding between cells. Inhibition of cell proliferation and changes in cell morphology indicate cell death by apoptosis and necrosis. Cell cycle inhibition and apoptosis induction tests were carried out on the most active fraction that showed the highest cytotoxic activity, namely the hexane fraction of the Acalypha. Cell cycle analysis was performed using the flow cytometry method to show the percentage of living cells in each phase of the cell cycle. The results of observing the cell cycle profile can be seen in Figure 2. From Figure 2, it is known that the treatment of the hexane fraction of the concentration of 40 and 80 microgram per milliliter does not affect the overall cell cycle profile of 41. Observation of the cell cycle with PI reagents to observe the effect of the hexane fraction treatment on the percentage of living cells in each phase of the cell cycle showed no significant changes compared to untreated cells, both in the sub-G1, G0 or G1S and G2M phases. Inhibition of the cell cycle in certain phases causes cell resistance to a chemotherapy agent, so the apoptotic induction mechanism is needed to overcome this. The treatment of hexane fraction concentration 40 and 80 microgram per milliliter in 41 cells showed the occurrence of late apoptosis, but the percentage was much smaller compared to untreated cells, as shown in Figure 3. This is presumably because the mechanism of the hexane fraction in killing cancer cells is without through the apoptotic pathway, but through the mechanism of necrosis. However, this conjecture needs to be further proven by trying the hexane Acalypha fraction treatment with reduced concentration and longer incubation time. From the results of the research, we can conclude that Acalypha ethanolic extract performed the strongest cytotoxic effect on 41 cells with the IC50 values of 171 microgram per milliliter. Among three fractions, the hexane fraction of Acalypha showed the highest cytotoxic activity with the IC50 of 85 microgram per milliliter. Still, the fraction has no effects on cell cycle and apoptosis. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah, thank you very much. So for the last presentation, I would like to invite ID number 197. Are you ready, Ms. Dwi Prastiani? Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready. Thank you for allowing me to present. Okay, I hope that everyone here can see the screen well. Um, Okay, first of all, the Honorable Committee, thank you. Committee ninth HSI for this very good opportunity, and thank you to all the Honorable ladies and gentlemen. I am Amelia Cerita Salia. Attend here as a Miss Dwi Pasutani representative. I'll explain about the women's empowerment on food security. So here, with the introduction, the role of women is one of the keys in increasing food security. Extensive literature on women's empowerment in the context of food security is still limited right now, and this research presents a study using a semi-systematic literature review or SSLR method, which filters articles from various reliable sources using ideas about women empowerment and food security. The result of the study is indicate that there is a consistently positive relationship between the various ideas about women's empowerment and food security. Next, for the literature review, food is one of the basic human needs, and the lack of food needs will result in malnutrition for the community. According to FAO reports, it's estimated between 720 and 811 million people face hunger. And the number of people that experience hunger has also increased due to the COVID-19 pandemic and resulted in increase in prevalence of malnutrition to 9.9% in 2020 from 8.5% before in 2019. Food security is an important issue in Indonesia, where the facts show that the achievement of food security at the national level is not usually delegated to the household level. In Indonesia, the number of female population is larger than male. Women empowerment is one of the solutions that can increase food security. To answer this research, a semi-systematic literature review was conducted. SSLR was conducted to develop a more systematic understanding of the effects of women empowerment on food security, and can describe areas research and also identify the research gap. For the research method of this article uses a systematic approach. A systematic literature review is a synthesis of multidimensional topics that allows researchers to make themes, theoretical approaches, and commonalities that are limited by the scope of the review objectives. The first step in SSLR is the selection of selected keywords by establishing the relevance of the sustainability topic. Keywords, global topics, and research questions comprehensively. The literature search process for SSLR is carried out using the search string in table below. So, and in this research, we use one source is from Scopus, from Elsevier, and we use women empowerment and food security keywords to search. Next, the SLR steps in this article I divided into 3. There are identification, screening, eligibility, and inclusion. The first stage is identification that carry out through database selection and keyword selection. The literature search process for SLR using the Scopus database and literature search was carried out until July 2022. The selection of keywords was narrowed down to article titles, abstracts, and keywords. The string used is women empowerment and food security, with string detected 8,756 articles with restrictions on the article being published until 2022. The next is the screening stage. At this stage, filtering is carried out and in the form of restriction or limits in the form of complete articles that can be accessed, all open access. And journal type only detected 255 articles. After the feasibility stage was carried out to include high quality and up-to-date result, journals are selected. The sample was taken into 27 journals. So this is the 4th step in systematic literature review, with identification, screening, eligibility, and then they included the final full articles that include in final synthesis. For the result and discussion, there are several analytical tools used for analyze women's empowerment. data collection through in-depth interview, and then a partial square and focus group discussion, simple regression and regression multivariate. After that, SWOT analysis. Yeah, and that's all. For the conclusion, based on the SSLR, there are several roles in women's empowerment that affect the food security. Bargaining theory and feminists predict that married women are more empowered to make spending decisions if they work, educated, and have additional children. Choose making more choice about consumption for the family. So it will be affect the food security in the family level. Overall, our review enabled us to identify the need for further research in the form of case studies, project approaches, and methods on food security, and constitute a comprehensive review of the literature. This is for difference. I think that's all. Thank you for this opportunity. I give it back to the moderator, Ms. Elisa Hirawati. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Very nice presentation, Ms. Dwi. Now we are entering the QA session. So is there anyone who would like to ask a question? You are also welcome to type it in the chat box if you would like. Okay, in the meantime, I would like to ask to Ms. Ikayanti. Ms. Ikayanti?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Could you suggest what is the possible bioactive compound present in the hexane fraction of Acalifa that have the promising effect for the anti-cancer effect?
Okay, yes. From the previous research, I read that the Acalifa contain flavonoid in the leaves of Acalifa. It can be
what type of flavonoid? Maybe if you can.
Yes,
explain
sorry.
further.
Yes.
But
Yes,
your extraction is ethanol, right? So that's
yes,
polar.
the compound they are thought to be responsible for these activities maybe is elagitanin, geranine, corrigalin, and revifolin from the previous research.
I see. So there has been a study before.
Yes.
To determine the particular compound. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
How about the other? Do we have any question from the floor here? Yeah, we just wait for several seconds, maybe. Okay, if there is no question anymore, I think we all have completed all the talks today. I would like to thank you all for the excellent thought-provoking talks today, and also to the organizing committee. As a moderator, I also would like to thank you for the opportunity. And before you leave the Zoom meeting, please don't forget to fill in the attendance form. And also tomorrow we will have a general assembly. So please don't forget to join the general assembly either by Zoom or by YouTube. So yeah, we have the link provided via email, and also you can check it through the website. And about the publication afterwards, we will keep in touch with you via the email about the payment of the publication fee and also the other follow-ups regarding the publication. Oh, Ms. Dwi Prastiani, do you have any question? Yes, please.
Pardon me for interrupt, Ms. Elisa. I would like to know because I just in and out in this room Zoom, so I can get the attendance form presensi kehadiran.
Okay. I will type it again.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I will send it again through the chat box. Okay. And yeah, where are we? Oh, about the payment. Yeah, once again, I'll repeat about the payment of application and then the follow-up procedure about your articles will be informed later after this via the email. Okay. So thank you very much for attending today's parallel session and see you around tomorrow in the General Assembly. Thank you very much. Have a good day and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih.
Terima
Thank
kasih
you.
Bapak Ibu